Chapter 115. After Chu Xiu returned to the Blue Dragon Society, Fire Slave and Wolf King both knew what Chu Xiu had done. However, they were smart enough not to ask Chu Xiu what he had obtained from the Jianghu family in Daishan County. The freedom of the Heavenly Sin branch was still very high. There were so many tasks that they could choose from. In addition, they did not have the strength that Chu Xiu had to look down on a clan. This kind of thing was something that Chu Xiu could do, but they could not. After returning, Chu Xiu did not choose to carry out the task. Instead, he continued to stay in the Blue Dragon Society to cultivate and digest all the things he had obtained from the Jianghu family. Chu Xiu never accumulated things like cultivation resources. He always used them when he had them, and when he ran out of them, he would take on tasks and continue to earn cultivation resources. From the inner invulnerability stage to the physical invulnerability stage required the most cultivation resources. On the contrary, from the physical invulnerability stage to the 3 flowers at once prominence or the 5 cheese origin stage, what was needed was not a large number of cultivation resources, but one's own potential and comprehension. Just as Chu Xiu was almost done with his cultivation and was about to come out, the Ghost Hand King suddenly called Chu Xiu and asked him to go to the square to wait for the Heavenly Sin branch leader. When Chu Xiu arrived at the square, he found that 80% of the killers in the Heavenly Sin branch were gathered there. Moreover, all the killers above level 4 with code names were there. Chu Xiu asked Fire Slave in a low voice, "What's going on?" Fire Slave chuckled and said, "There should be a big group mission. Otherwise, we wouldn't all be called here. Looking at the current scale, this group mission is not small." After a while, the Heavenly Sin branch leader walked out and said to everyone present in a deep voice, "The branch recently accepted a level 6 extermination mission. I was prepared to go personally, but I was entangled with other more difficult missions and couldn't get away. So this time, the mission will be handed over to you. You don't need to contact the employer. Just kill them." As he spoke, Sky Crime branch leader gave everyone a copy of the mission brief. There was only the mission objective and no information about the employer. Looking at the mission brief, Chu Xiu had a strange expression on his face. How much hatred did the person who issued the mission have with the other party? This task was very simple. The elder of the Spirit Sword sect, the number 1 sect in the Autumn Ridge County, Hidden Spirit Sword, Yao Nanqian, was ready to retire from the Jianghu. He was going to hold a washing his hands in a golden basin ceremony at the Yao family manor in the Autumn Ridge County. What the Blue Dragon Society wanted to do was to kill Yao Nanqian and destroy the Yao family before the golden basin washing ceremony was completed. It had to be said that this mission was quite vicious. Washing his hands in a golden basin meant that he would completely withdraw from the martial arts world. He would let go of all his grudges and prepare for retirement. However, the employer wanted him to die before he could prepare for retirement. This could be said to be a huge grudge. Moreover, it was not an exaggeration to set this mission as a level 6 mission. Although the strength of the Yao family was not strong, with only Yao Nanqian being a physical invulnerability martial artist, if they made a move during the Golden Basin washing ceremony, someone would definitely intervene in this matter. Not to mention, although the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect would not come, he would send other physical invulnerability elders or deacons. Moreover, the Spirit Sword sect was the number 1 sect in the Qiuling County, and Yao Nanqian was also a senior who had been in the martial arts world for decades. There would probably be a lot of people who would come to participate in his Golden Basin washing ceremony. Among those people who would just watch from the sidelines and who would make a move, it was still unknown. Therefore, setting this mission as a level 6 mission was not only the intention of the Blue Dragon Society, but also the choice of the employer. The Heavenly Sin branch leader looked at the crowd and said, "For this mission, all the assassins above level 4 must go. The rest of the assassins below level 4 must also go. For this kind of large-scale group mission, there must be a temporary commander. Who among you will take this position?" The Ghost Hand King, Fire Slave, Wolf King, and the others exchanged a look, then they all kept their silence and remained silent. They were only in the inner aura stage. Usually, they could be the commander when they brought other innate stage assassins to carry out the mission. However, Now there were 3 more powerful existences, so of course, they could not steal this limelight. Cruel Sword Yen Bugue directly said, "I'm not interested." He could kill people, but with his character, if he really wanted to be the commander, perhaps he would only say the word kill. His style of doing things was very simple and crude. Everyone present set their eyes on Chu Xiu and Tang Ye. In the past, when they carried out the mission, Tang Ye was the temporary commander, and with his physical invulnerability, he was one of the strongest in the Heavenly Sin branch. However, the mission of exterminating the Yu family by Chu Xiu was too dazzling. With the power of one person, he was able to directly exterminate the entire Yu family. It could be seen that Chu Xiu's ability in strategy. Therefore, it was a difficult problem to decide who should be the leader of these 2 people. The Heavenly Sin branch leader looked at the 2 of them and suddenly said, "Last time, Chu Xiu's performance in exterminating the Yu family was not bad. Moreover, the employer requested us to make the mission a little bigger. Chu Xiu's reputation in the Jianghu should be a little bigger. Therefore, this time, Chu Xiu will be the leader. Tang Ye, do you have any objections?" Tang Ye only smiled and said casually, "I will obey Lord Branch Leader's orders." Chu Xiu also cupped his hands expressionlessly and said, "Understood." This branch leader had used too many methods to keep his subordinates in check. His identity as a commander was limited to this operation and did not have any actual power. Just for such a small matter, he still wanted to sow discord between him and Tang Ye, both openly and secretly. In fact, Division Leader Heavenly Sin could have given this mission to Chu Xiu. However, Division Leader Heavenly Sin had asked for Tang Ye's opinion at the end, which carried a strong sense of alienation and provocation. It made Tang Ye feel that he was inferior to Chu Xiu. Division Leader Heavenly Sin even hinted that if Tang Ye did not agree, he could say it out loud. Actually, the Heavenly Sin branch leader did this only because Chu Xiu had been too close to Ghost Hand King and the others recently. The Heavenly Sin branch leader did not want his subordinates to kill each other, but at the same time, he did not want them to be too close. Right now, it was fine that Chu Xiu was close to Ghost Hand King and the others, but he did not want his 3 strongest assassins to be so close as well. This was all guessed by Chu Xiu, but he did not say anything. There was no need to ruin the Heavenly Sin branch leader's reputation for such a small matter. As for whether Tang Ye bore a grudge against him or not, Chu Xiu did not care about it. As long as the other side did not carry out the grudge in his heart, Chu Xiu naturally could not be bothered to care about them. In other words, ever since Chu Xiu stepped into the Jianghu, he had killed many people and offended even more people. There were many people who secretly bore grudges and even wanted to kill him. Right now, he did not care about this one. The Heavenly Sin branch leader nodded his head in satisfaction and said, "Since this is the case, you all should act quickly. The earlier you complete the mission, the more missions the branch has accumulated." "Understood." The assassins present all replied respectfully. Outside the Anyang prefecture of the Autumn Ridge County, the Yao family village was located near a small lake outside the Anyang prefecture. The scenery was very beautiful. Previously, the Yao family village had been relatively low-key. However, today, because Yao Nanqian was going to hold the washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony, the Yao family village could be said to be very lively. Outside the Yao family village, several of Yao Nanqian's sons were greeting the guests at the entrance. The guests were all disciples from the big sects, and there were also some martial artists from small sects or loose cultivators who came to watch the ceremony. Of course, their treatment was not as polite as those from the big sections. Usually, they would just send the congratulatory gifts and then enter the village to find a place to sit. Yao Nanqian's reputation in the martial arts world of the Autumn Ridge County was relatively big. He should be the most senior in the Spirit Sword sect. Moreover, he was also well known for his love of guiding the younger generation. It could be said that he was a highly respected elder in Jianghu. Coupled with the power and influence of the Spirit Sword sect, the number of people who came today was not small. Moreover, the washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony was not common in the Jianghu. Many people came with curiosity to watch the ceremony. Actually, most of the martial artists who said that they would retire from the Jianghu were just looking for a quiet place to live out their retirement. They would not hold any ceremony because this thing was too important. Once the washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony was held, it meant that you could no longer meddle in any Jianghu affairs. Your contacts, your relationship, and your prestige in the Jianghu would be completely washed away along with the washing of hands in a golden basin. After washing of hands in a golden basin, meddling in the Jianghu affairs would be a violation of the rules. Even if it was Yao Nanxian's son who wanted to borrow Yao Nanxian's power, he would not be able to do so. It could be said that this washing of hands in a golden basin completely washed away the identity of a Jianghu person. Of course, there were also benefits. After washing of hands in a golden basin, he would be recognized by all parties. Even those who had a grudge against him could no longer come to find trouble with him. Otherwise, that would be a violation of the rules of the Jianghu, and he would be attacked by everyone. The Jianghu disciple and the Jianghu veterans stepped into the Jianghu. No matter if they were good or bad, once they realized the power and influence, who would want to return to their family and be a rich man? Who would want to put down the sword in their hand and let it rust in the corner? Other places might not know, but at least in Qiling County, in the past decade or so, Yao Nanxian was the first person to hold the washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony. He had officially washed his hands in a golden basin in front of many Jianghu people and retired from the Jianghu. As for the others, most of them were just selling dog meat. They said that they were going to retire from the Jianghu, but there was no telling when they would come back to the Jianghu for some reason, just like Su Chongyang, who had been killed by Chu Xiu. Inside the Yao clan manor, Lu Yu carried a fan on his back and waved it in his hand. He wobbled around the Yao clan manor, greeting all the cultivators he knew and did not know. He was an anemophilia under the wind-sweeping towers Daishan County branch. However, there were some problems with the wind-sweeping tower in Qiling County, so it was temporarily under the jurisdiction of Daishan County. Now that such a big thing had happened, he naturally had to come and take a look so that he could get first-hand information. At this moment, a few unaffiliated martial artists who were on good terms with Lu Yu saw him approaching. They all greeted him and said, "Brother Lu, I knew that you would be needed at such an occasion. Come and sit. Tell us about the inside story of old Master Yao's retirement from the Jianghu this time." Liu walked over and sat down. He used his fan to point at the main entrance and said, "Don't be anxious. The big shots haven't all arrived yet. Today is a big event that you guys can only see once in a decade. It's enough for you to brag about." Chapter 116. Liu was right. Those who came first were just small potatoes. When the washing ceremony was about to begin, many big shots arrived one after another. The first to arrive were 3 martial artists in the physical invulnerability stage, all dressed in blue with swords on their back. Lu Yu pointed to the 3 people and said, "3 of the 4 sword leaders of the spirit sword sect are here. These 3 people have reached the physical invulnerability stage in their prime. It is said that in the past, they were also guided and promoted by Yao Nanxian in the spirit sword sect." A martial artist next to him wondered, why didn't the sect leader of the spirit sword sect, Frost Moon Sword Lin Feiyu, come? His own elder has washed his hands in the golden basin, so as the sect leader, he should come out. Lu Yu looked around and said in a low voice, "There is some gossip, but it's just gossip, don't take it seriously." The several martial artists present also laughed twice. They knew what Lu Yu meant. How could the news from the wind-sweeping building be gossip? Lu Yu lowered his voice and said, "According to seniority, the sect leader of the spirit sword sect, Lin Feiyu, is Yao Nanxian's junior, the same generation as the 4 sword leaders present. It's just that Lin Feiyu's aptitude was mediocre, so Yao Nanxian promoted other people. However, because Lin Feiyu had a conflict with his disciple, he opposed him and even suppressed him, which led to the enmity between the 2. As a result, no one expected that the previously selected successor of the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect died prematurely, and the seemingly mediocre Lin Feiyu actually soared to the sky. Soon after Lin Feiyu stepped into the physical invulnerability stage, he directly comprehended and condensed the 3 flowers above his head. After taking over the position of the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect a year ago, he observed the Nirvana Spirit Sword mark left by the ancestor of the Spirit Sword sect, gathered the 5 qi in his body, and reached the 5 qi unification stage. He was only one step away from the realm of the unity of man and nature. Think about it carefully. The disciple who was suppressed by him in the past has now achieved far more than the ancestors of the Spirit Sword sect. It's not easy for Yao Nanqian to stay in the Spirit Sword sect for such a long time. He might have washed his hands in a golden basin today for this reason. Now, Lin Feiyu has allowed 3 physical invulnerability mighty ones who have the best relationship with Yao Nanqian to attend his washing ceremony. This is already considered generous. A martial artist doubtfully said, but the outside world said that Master Yao is a fair person and likes to promote the younger generation. Not only the disciples of Spirit Sword sect, but even the young martial artists of Jianghu have been promoted by Master Yao. Lu Yu looked around and said, "It's not convenient for me to say much today. I will only tell everyone one thing. There has never been a saint in the martial world. It's normal to help those who are close to them and ignore reason. If one's own disciple is being bullied, no matter how just a person is, would they side with outsiders?" Several people present nodded hesitantly. Just as they were about to say something, several groups of people came in from the outside. Lu Yu said as if he was counting his family treasures: the Zhou family of East Ridge, the Lu family of Tyrant Water, the Jiahua sect, the Red Flame Saber sect. TSK, more than 10 big sects have come. Yao Nanqian has been in the Qiuling County and the East Yen martial arts world for half of his life, and there are really a lot of people who give him face. Hey, this is a real big shot. With that, a military martial artist in his early 30s came in from the door. He was wearing a silver radiant armor with a long saber at his waist. Seeing this person, it was not the eldest son of the Yao family who came to greet him, but Yao Nanqian himself. Yao Nanqian was in his 70s this year. He had a square face and gray hair. However, he had the strength of the physical invulnerability stage, so it was easy for him to live for more than 100 years. Now, although his qi and blood had declined, he still retained most of his strength. Today, Yao Nanqian was wearing a brocade robe and did not carry any weapons. He was dressed like a rich man. When he saw the military martial artist, he immediately greeted him with a smile and said, "General Xiang, your presence brings light to my humble dwelling." General Xiang waved his hand and said, "Please don't make fun of me, old Master Yao. I'm just a lieutenant under the mountain-subduing army. I don't deserve the title of general." Yao Nanqian smiled and said, "You deserve it. Who doesn't know that General Xiang is now the mountain-subduing army's General Yin Luo's trusted subordinate? You've already reached the physical invulnerability stage at such a young age. I estimate that it won't be long before General Xiang reaches the 3 flowers at one's prominent stage. When that time comes, you will definitely be given the title of Deputy General. It doesn't matter if you call me General sooner or later." Hearing Yao Nanqian say this, General Xiang did not say much. He just casually took off the long saber at his waist and threw it to Yao Nanqian as a congratulatory gift, then walked straight in. It was normal for martial artists to give weapons as congratulatory gifts, but the problem was that Yao Nanqian was about to wash his hands of martial arts. In the end, General Xiang actually gave him a saber. This was very unlucky. When he received the gift, the corner of Yao Nanqian's eye twitched. However, he did not dare to say anything. He only obediently let the man in. Lu Yu said in a low voice from behind, "Among the 9 counties of Eastern Yen, the Northern Yen Imperial Court has stationed 3 armies in Eastern Yen. Our Qiuling County is actually under the mountain-subduing army's control. This person is called Xiang Weiyang, and he is the trusted subordinate of the mountain-subduing army's General Yin Luohua, the Flying Tiger. He was not famous before, but after he was promoted by Yin Luohua, he shone with extraordinary talent. He participated in the battle against the 36 great bandits of the northern lands. Within a day, he led a team to eliminate the Fang family of Linzhong County, which was disrespectful to the imperial court. His methods were decisive and fierce." A martial artist beside him said in a low voice, "It's a little strange for someone from the imperial court to participate in our Jianghu's washing hands ceremony." Lu Yu said in a low voice, "There's nothing strange about it. In the past, our northern Yen was weak, and we were suppressed by Eastern Qi. It was because of the great talent and strategy of the current emperor. He united the Northern Yen martial arts community and resolved the 36 great bandits of the northern lands internally and defeated Eastern Qi externally. He destroyed that arrogant Wei kingdom and turned it into our northern Yan's Wei county. Although the conflict between the imperial court and the Jianghu has become more intense in recent years, the old relationship between the two still exists. With Yao Nanqian's status, the mountain-subduing army sent a lieutenant with a bright future to support him. This is already giving him face. After Xiang Weiyang, who represented the northern Yen imperial court, arrived, a few other people from the major sects followed. The most famous of them was an old monk. The old monk seemed to be on good terms with Yao Nanqian. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Yao Nanqian personally led him into the manor. Lu Yu said in a low voice, "The abbot of Jianghu Temple, Zen Master Hengshan, is a physical invulnerability expert from Mount Tai County. Of course, he is more famous for his attainments in Buddhism. He is the strongest among all the Buddhist temples in Mount Tai County. I heard that he was once invited by the Great Light Temple to discuss Buddhism. Zen Master Hengshan is a good friend of Yao Nanqian. This time, Yao Nanqian is going to wash his hands in a golden basin, and he was also invited to be a witness." The few martial artists behind Lu Yu nodded. Although they liked to listen to the gossip of the Jianghu, those were all rumors and idle chatter. How could they be as well informed as Lu Yu, a true anemophilia expert? After an hour, almost all the people had arrived. Yao Nanqian walked up to a high platform in the middle of the courtyard, cupped his hands across his chest, and said, "Fellow Taoists, today, you have given me face and come to this old man's washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony. This old man has nothing to say but gratitude. In the past, this old man was just a down-and-out small businessman. When I was in my 20s, I was recognized by my master and entered the Spirit Sword sect. After mingling in the Eastern Yen martial arts world for several decades, I managed to make a small name for myself." Hearing this, someone below immediately said, "Old Master Yao, if your reputation is only insignificant, then we will truly become nameless people." Yao Nanqian smiled and said, "There are many heroes in this Jianghu. Compared to them, if this old man is not small, then what am I? It's precisely because I've seen these heroes that I feel that I'm already old and can no longer contribute to the sect. Instead of staying in the sect and being a rice worm, I might as well withdraw from the world of martial arts and spend my remaining years in peace. After stepping into the Jianghu for several decades, I have seen wind and rain and experienced waves. It's time for me to go ashore and write off all the gratitude and grudges. Today, this old man, Yao Nanqian, officially washes his hands in a golden basin. From now on, I no longer care about the gratitude and grudges of the Jianghu, nor do I care about the Jianghu. Bring the golden basin." As soon as his voice fell, Yao Nanqian's eldest son brought the golden basin filled with water. The head monk of Jianghu Temple, Monk Hengshan, also stood on the side as a witness to this washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony. Monk Hengshan's responsibility as a witness was not small. As a witness, it meant that he could prove that Yao Nanqian had washed his hands in a golden basin. Later on, if Yao Nanqian ever intervened in the Jianghu affairs, that would be breaking the rules. As a witness, he had to be the first one to make a move against Yao Nanqian. And if there were other people who made a move against Yao Nanqian, that would also be breaking the rules. As a witness, he had to be the first one to stand up and help Yao Nanqian by contacting the Jianghu people for help. It could be said that this was a very troublesome thing. If it was not a real good friend, or a fellow disciple of the sect, no one would accept this position. Everyone below was waiting for the final scene of washing of hands in a golden basin. However, at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded. "Old Master Yao, you are prepared to wash your hands in a golden basin and settle all the gratitude and grudges in the Jianghu. But have you asked others if they are willing to settle all the gratitude and grudges with you? After stepping into the Jianghu and picking up a sword, your hands are stained with blood and are also stained with karma. Not to mention a golden basin, even a purple gold basin cannot wash away the blood on your hands and cannot wash away the karma on your body. There is a good saying, the world is like the tide and people are like the water. Only a few people in the Jianghu will return. Old Master Yao, it won't be so easy for you to withdraw from the Jianghu so peacefully. Everyone abruptly looked behind them, only to see close to 100 black-clothed cultivators standing on the walls of the Yao clan manor at some point in time. A pitch-black samurai suit, a black iron bamboo hat with golden patterns, and a strange black iron mask. The leader's black iron mask had a hideous bloodstain. He looked at Yao Nanqian with a cold gaze. The dense killing intent shrouded the entire Yao clan manor in a dense chill. Chapter 117. Blue Dragon Society. The Assassins of the Blue Dragon Society. There were many taboos in the pugilistic world. For example, one could bring weapons normally, but not during ancestral worship. Otherwise, it would be inauspicious. However, no matter how inauspicious it was, could it be more inauspicious than encountering the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society during the Golden Basin washing ceremony? Everyone present looked at Yao Nanqian. In fact, they were also very confused. Old Master Yao had a very good reputation in Qiuling Prefecture and even in the entire pugilistic world of East Yen. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many people attending the Golden Basin washing ceremony today. If it was a nameless person, they wouldn't care whether he or she washed his hands in a golden basin or a silver basin. Moreover, although the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society were the strongest in the pugilistic world, they were also the most expensive. How many assassins did the Blue Dragon Society send out? There were already a few people who had some understanding of the Heavenly Sin branch. Among them was the recently famous blood devil Chu Xiu, who was ranked on the Longhu list. There were also Cruel Sword Yen Bugei and Tanya, who were infamous in the Heavenly Sin branch before Chu Xiu. Moreover, although the Ghost Hand King, Fire Slave, and Wolf King weren't famous, they were all elite assassins of the Blue Dragon Society since they could leave a mark on their masks. This was something that everyone knew. Apart from these people, there were also close to 100 assassins of the Blue Dragon Society present. With such a large number of people, perhaps even the entire Heavenly Sin branch of the Blue Dragon Society had been mobilized. The people below all had different expressions. Lu Yu and the others also revealed expressions of watching a good show, especially Lu Yu. He directly took out a small notebook and a thin pen and excitedly recorded something on it. Today, he was only here to join in the fun, but he didn't expect to pick up such a big piece of news. The others' mentality was similar to Lu Yu and the others. Even if some people respected Yao Nanqian's character, no one dared to jump out to uphold justice at this time. At this moment, an ordinary person would have been scared out of their wits in the face of such a situation. However, Yao Nanqian could be considered an existence who had seen great winds and waves. Facing the assassins of the Azure Dragon Society in front of him, he was still confident. Although the Blue Dragon Society is an assassin organization, it is still a sect in the pugilistic world. There are rules that should be followed, right? I have already decided to retire from the world of martial arts. Do you still want to force me? Chu Xiu sneered and said, "Don't you know why my Blue Dragon Society is here today? If he wanted to leave the world of martial arts, that was fine. He would settle all his past grudges and he would naturally be able to leave the world of martial arts in peace. My Blue Dragon Society is here to help you settle your grudges today. If you don't die in this round, my Blue Dragon Society won't care what basin you use to wash your hands in." At this moment, Zen Master Hengshan, who was standing beside Yao Nanqian, stood up, put his palms together, and chanted Buddha's name. He said, "The Blue Dragon Society has its own rules. This old monk is aware of this. However, the Blue Dragon Society naturally has the right to reject the mission. Everyone, today is Brother Yao's retirement ceremony, yet your Blue Dragon Society is so insistent. Aren't you afraid of causing public anger? Is the reward of this mission more important or the public anger of the East Yen martial arts world more important? I believe you can weigh the pros and cons yourself." Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows. This old monk just opened his mouth and pushed the Blue Dragon Society to the opposite side of the East Yen martial arts world. Were all monks so eloquent? Chu Xiu looked around and cupped his hands at the others. He said, Everyone, you know the rules of the Blue Dragon Society. The Blue Dragon Society is a sword. Whoever spends money, this sword will help that person to kill. How can there be any good people who have been in the world of martial arts for decades? Anyway, I don't believe it. Yao Nanxian has sowed karma. Now, someone is spending a lot of money to ask the Blue Dragon Society to repay this karma. It's reasonable, so please don't interfere. The Blue Dragon Society's rule is not to kill innocent people without paying. However, if anyone obstructs the Blue Dragon Society from killing people, then the Blue Dragon Society doesn't mind killing them first. As soon as the words left his mouth, the expressions of the crowd changed slightly. This assassin from the Azure Dragon Society was a little too arrogant. He actually dared to threaten them in front of everyone. However, threats were just threats. The power of the Blue Dragon Society was there. Whoever dared to help Yao Nanxian resist the Blue Dragon Society at this time was simply courting death. As for those who had the strength to challenge the Blue Dragon Society, their relationship with Yao Nanxian wasn't that good. The disciples of the large sects immediately left and walked to the side, indicating that they didn't want to interfere in this matter. They came to participate in Yao Nanxian's washing ceremony only because of their pride. After all, Yao Nanxian had a good reputation in the East Yen martial arts world. However, in reality, they didn't have any beneficial relationship with Yao Nanxian. What benefits could a person who was going to wash his hands of the golden basin bring to them? As these people from the large sects moved, most of the others looked at each other and stood to the side. Xiang Weiyang, who came from the military, didn't move, but he also didn't stand up to speak for Yao Nanxian. Instead, his eyes revealed a trace of interest. In the past, the Northern Yen Imperial Court and Jianghu had a lot of cooperation. However, that was in the past. Especially in recent years, these people in Jianghu had somewhat gone too far. They even had the tendency to not put the Imperial Court in their eyes. Thus, the Northern Yen Imperial Court couldn't just ignore this. Therefore, whether it was Yao Nanxian's side or the Blue Dragon Society's side, he didn't care who died. At most, he would just watch a big show. Under the coercion of the Blue Dragon Society, most of the martial artists chose to stay neutral and didn't want to get involved in this matter. Only dozens of loose cultivators who had received kindness from Yao Nanxian in the past stood on the side of the Yao family, willing to live and die together with Yao Nanxian. The three physical invulnerability martial artists of the Spirit Sword sect coldly snorted and then stood up. Members of the Blue Dragon Society, don't you think you've gone too far? Do you even put our Spirit Sword sect in your eyes? Even if Martial Uncle Yao has decided to wash his hands of Jianghu, he is still a member of our Spirit Sword sect. If we let you kill Martial Uncle Yao today, where would we put our face? Although the three of them were not Yao Nanxian's disciples, in the past, they all relied on Yao Nanxian's promotion to reach their current position in the Spirit Sword sect. Now, whether it was because they were sincerely grateful to Yao Nanxian or simply didn't want others to say that they were ungrateful, in any case, they had to stand up. Chu Xiu lightly said, "Don't say that you're from the Spirit Sword sect. Who doesn't know about the matter between Yao Nanxian and your Spirit Sword sect? If the Spirit Sword sect really regards Yao Nanxian as one of their own, why didn't they hold the washing hands in the Golden Basin ceremony in the Spirit Sword sect, but in the Yao family village? Moreover, why didn't your sect leader Lin show up? Sect leader Lin cares about his face and can't take revenge for the past enmity, so today, the Blue Dragon Society will help them take revenge together. Maybe sect leader Lin will even secretly thank us." As soon as his voice fell, Chu Xiu directly waved his hand and shouted, "Do it." The Heavenly Sin Branch leader actually didn't have a good plan for him to be the commander of this mission. With these words, it was clear who would stand on Yao Nanxian's side, and who would choose to stay on the sidelines. The people of the Blue Dragon Society just needed to kill them. Actually, the number of people who would help Yao Nanxian was almost the same as Chu Xiu's estimation. The only one that Chu Xiu didn't expect was the Jinhua Temple's Zen Master Hengshan to have such a close relationship with Yao Nanxian that he was willing to stand up for him in the face of the Blue Dragon Society. However, fortunately, Yao Nanxian and that Zen Master Hengshan were already old, So the real problem was the 3 Spirit Sword Sect's external aura stage martial artists. The 3 of them were one of the 4 great sword leaders of the Spirit Sword Sect. As the name implied, they were the top swordsmen of the Spirit Sword Sect. Although this title was given by the Spirit Sword Sect itself, it also proved the status of these 3 people in the Spirit Sword Sect. As soon as the 2 sides began to fight, Yan Bugui directly faced 2 Spirit Sword Sect's external aura stage martial artists, while Tanya faced Yao Nanxian and another Spirit Sword Sect martial artist. Although Chu Xiu was a level 5 assassin, he was still in the internal aura stage. Therefore, he didn't have much confidence in fighting against the 3 Spirit Sword Sect's external aura stage martial artists. However, with his current strength, Chu Xiu still had some confidence in dealing with an old monk like Zen Master Hengshan. Zen Master Hengshan's Jinhua Temple was relatively famous among the Buddhist temples in the Mount Tai County. Zen Master Hengshan's reputation was also not small. He liked to guide the younger generation of disciples, and he was a fair person. If there was any competition between the surrounding forces of the martial arts world, he would always help to mediate, so that the 2 sides would not turn into a life-and-death fight. Looking at Chu Xiu, Zen Master Hengshan said in a sinking voice, "Does the Blue Dragon Society really want to go to the extreme today?" Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "It's not that our Blue Dragon Society wants to go to the extreme, but the employer who hired us wants to go to the extreme. Don't Buddhism pay attention to cause and effect the most? Yao Nanxian has been stained with cause and effect, so now it's time for him to pay it back. Isn't that reasonable?" Zen Master Hengshan chanted the name of Buddha and said, "Since you believe in karma, do you know how many innocent people your Azure Dragon Society has killed as a knife in the hands of others? How much blood and karma have your hands been stained with? If you turn back now, you still have the chance to put down the butcher's knife." Chu Xiu pulled out the red sleeve blade in his hand and lightly said, "Zen Master, do you want to persuade me to put down the butcher's knife and turn back to the shore? Unfortunately, if I turn back, I will die. I put down the knife in my hand, but the person who wants to kill me will not put down the sword in his hand. In addition, I also want to give you a piece of advice. Do you know why the monks in the Subhuti monastery who practice ascetic meditation for dozens of years live longer? It's not because they are skilled in martial arts and Buddhist Dharma, but because they don't like to meddle in other people's business." Zen Master Hengshan closed his eyes. When he opened them again, an incomparably sharp glint burst out from his eyes. The Buddhist sect can persuade people to put down the butcher's knife. Since you are so stubborn, then the Buddhist sect also has the wrath of the Vajra. As soon as he finished speaking, a dazzling golden gang chi burst out from Zen Master Hengshan's body. His loose monk robe fluttered, and his momentum burst out fiercely. The wrath of the Vajra could suppress evil and subdue demons. Chapter 118. The Southern Buddhist sect cultivated Dharma, while the Northern Buddhist sect cultivated physique. Although Zen Master Hengshan was not a disciple of the Great Guangming Temple, it should be known that 99% of the Buddhist disciples in the Northern Buddhist sect cultivated physique refining techniques. Although Zen Master Hengshan always had a benevolent look on his face, the moment he unleashed his power, it really had the power of a Vajra that could subdue demons. The Vajra gang chi coiled around Zen Master Hengshan's body. When his fist landed, his right hand formed a fist seal like a pestle to subdue demons. Chu Xiu's red sleeve blade slashed onto his fist, but it produced a violent explosion of gang chi. There was only a white mark on Zen Master Hengshan's fist, while Chu Xiu's body was involuntarily sent flying several feet away. Chu Xiu furrowed his brows. His hand, which was holding onto the blade, could not stop itself from trembling. This monk's strength was not just average. Additionally, he had cultivated himself to the point where he could use his body to fight against primordial weapons. So far, the only physical invulnerability expert that Chu Xiu had killed was Euhenian. However, at that time, Euhenian's strength was greatly reduced because he had been poisoned by the 3-bug 3-flower powder. Although the current Chu Xiu's strength had improved a lot compared to that time, he could only be suppressed in front of a famous physical invulnerability expert like Zen Master Hengshan. The golden gang qi around Zen Master Heng Shan's body surged, and his figure came crashing down. An incomparably powerful punch landed with a loud bang, sealing off all escape routes around Chu Xiu. He formed a seal with both hands and slammed it down. Vajra seal. The power contained in this seal was extremely fierce and overbearing. The pale golden gang qi whizzed over, and Chu Xiu could feel the piercing sharpness of the gang qi from a few feet away. It was as if there was really a Buddhist Vajra suppressing demons and subduing demons in front of him. A sharp glint flashed in Chu Xiu's eyes. He struck out with the great violet sun palm, but at the same time, his palm was also condensed with an incomparably strong power of blood. Its density was even comparable to the gang qi of a martial artist of the outer invulnerability realm. Zen Master Heng Shan snorted coldly at the sight of the extremely dense evil blood qi that sent chills down one's spine. Evil demon. Just this powerful baleful blood qi alone was enough to prove that this kid had killed countless people. Otherwise, he would definitely not be able to condense such a degree of baleful blood qi. As he thought of this, the Vajra seal in his hand shone brightly, and it descended, colliding with Chu Xiu's great violet sun palm. Instantly, a shocking shockwave erupted. With a loud bang, Chu Xiu's figure retreated several steps. The powerful inner force blasted into his body. If he had not mobilized all the true qi in his body to resist, this seal would have been enough to cripple his arm. However, Chu Xiu was not at ease at this moment. When the powerful force of the Vajra seal entered his body, it directly caused one of his arms to be drenched in blood. It even shook his internal organs, causing Chu Xiu to spit out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned pale. On the other hand, Zen Master Heng Shan did not take the opportunity to attack. He looked at the purple mark on his palm, and his expression changed slightly. What kind of evil technique is this? At this moment, Zen Master Heng Shan could clearly feel an incomparably scorching force spreading from the meridians in his hands to the rest of his body. The burning pain was unbearable, and he had no choice but to use all the true qi in his body to suppress it. Chu Xiu said indifferently, "My martial arts does not distinguish between good and evil. It's fine as long as it can kill." As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Xiu took the initiative to attack. The knife in his hand was like a continuous drizzle, slashing at Zen Master Heng Shan with murderous intent and crimson. He actually forced Zen Master Heng Shan to take the initiative to defend, and was suppressed by him. When the surrounding people saw the power of Chu Xiu's attack, their expressions also changed slightly. The Longhu list had already spread throughout the pugilistic world, and everyone knew that a young assassin had actually appeared in the Heavenly Sin branch. Previously, some of them were still discussing whether this person was ranked in the top 20 when he just stepped into the Longhu list, and even pushed by Wuji from the northern fluttering snow city down. Wasn't this a little too exaggerated? However, after seeing him fight with Zen Master Heng Shan today, everyone knew that Chu Xiu's ranking on the Longhu list was not high, but rather low. It was not unheard of for an internal invulnerability expert to defeat a physical invulnerability expert, or even kill a physical invulnerability expert. However, it also depended on the target. Zen Master Heng Shan, who was considered famous in the pugilistic world of East Yen, was actually suppressed by an internal invulnerability realm martial artist. This was a little too exaggerated. Being in the middle of Chu Xiu's knife, Zen Master Heng Shan's face was gloomy. At this moment, he finally understood why this person in front of him could become a level 5 assassin of the Blue Dragon Society at the internal invulnerability realm. He was indeed very difficult to deal with. When the other party attacked, the explosive power was shocking. Even if he was at his peak, he still had to be cautious. What was more troublesome was the evil martial arts that the other party had used previously. The scorching power was constantly eroding his meridians, causing Zen Master Heng Shan to be unable to unleash his greatest power, and was even suppressed by the other party. Having figured this out, Zen Master Heng Shan decided not to suppress the power of the heaven-extinguishing and earth-destroying hand of the great purple Yang Sunday, changing the stance of his fists. Golden gang qi shone like Buddha's light, condensing on his fists and striking at Chu Xiu. Zen Master Heng Shan cultivated the Great Vajra Exorcism Fist. The fist's momentum was incomparably fierce, and the power that erupted in this instant completely disrupted Chu Xiu's knife momentum. The Great Vajra Exorcism Fist, which was shining with golden gang qi, passed through the endless blood-colored knife aura and blasted at Chu Xiu's chest. At that moment, Chu Xiu's eyes suddenly flashed with a black color. It was pure black, the black that belonged to hell. Even the crimson blade of the red sleeve knife had been stained with a misty black aura. When the knife slashed down, one would fall into the endless hell. 3 cuts of Avicii. This terrifying saber strike directly shattered Zen Master Heng Shan's protective upstanding qi. Sensing the astonishing chill, Zen Master Heng Shan's fist posture changed. His hands turned into palms and directly caught the saber strike. It was as if he was putting his palms together to perform a Buddhist ritual, directly catching Chu Xiu's saber strike between his hands. Suppress! An angry roar came suddenly. The golden gang qi in Zen Master Heng Shan's hands surged, and the black aura on the red sleeve knife was shaken away. The voice was even more like a great bell, resounding in Chu Xiu's mind, making him feel dizzy and like vomiting blood. Lion's roar, tremor formula. In the past, Zen Master Heng Shan once went to the Great Light Temple to talk about Zen and Tao. He learned the tremor character formula of the lion's roar from the Great Light Temple. If an ordinary person was shaken by the lion's roar, their eardrums would be shattered, their 7 orifices would bleed, and they would even be completely stunned. Seeing that Chu Xiu had temporarily lost his consciousness, Zen Master Heng Shan directly swung the red sleeve knife in his hand to the side, and his palm that was shining with a golden glow was aimed at Chu Xiu's heart. The Great Light Temple's 9 transformation lions roar had a total of 9 transformations. Although Zen Master Heng Shan had only been taught a little bit of it, its power was indeed very extraordinary. However, because Chu Xiu had cultivated the soul-shifting technique of extinguishing heaven and destroying earth, his own mental strength was also extremely strong. Under the power of the tremor character formula of the lion's roar, he only lost his consciousness for a moment before he completely regained his consciousness. Facing Zen Master Heng Shan's palm, Chu Xiu once again used the great violet sun hand of extinguishing heaven and destroying earth to counter it. When the palm landed, Chu Xiu was directly blasted away. His left arm was twisted and looked to be broken. However, at this moment, Zen Master Heng Shan's expression suddenly changed. His face turned pale, and he could not help but let out a muffled groan as cold sweat flowed down his forehead. The power of the great violet sun hand of extinguishing heaven and destroying earth was originally not that easy to suppress and expel. He could suppress the power of 1 layer of the purple sun demonic flame, but what about 2 layers? Even with his cultivation, he could not endure the powerful power that burned his meridians and internal organs, and he let out a muffled groan. At this moment, the surrounding people saw that Chu Xiu could actually fight with Zen Master Heng Shan to such an extent, and they were also shocked. Although this Chu Xiu was known as an internal invulnerability expert, in reality, he already had the strength to fight against a physical invulnerability expert. Only a physical invulnerability expert like Zen Master Heng Shan, who was not weak, could injure him to such an extent. In the end, he also suffered internal injuries. If it were an ordinary physical invulnerability expert, he probably would not be able to gain any advantage in front of this Chu Xiu. Xiang Weiyang, who was standing at the side, looked at Chu Xiu with an even more horrified gaze. He was also a saber user, and the terrifying saber strike by Chu Xiu just now left a deep impression on him. That hatred that seemed to have emerged from hell was the pinnacle of negative emotions in the world. It was a standard demonic saber, the type that hurt others while hurting oneself. In the end, this person was still able to maintain his consciousness after using this saber. It was either because he had a secret treasure on him, or because of Chu Xiu's shocking willpower. At this moment, in the field, black gas lingered in Chu Xiu's eyes. Usually, when he used the 3 blades of Avicii, he would usually begin to suppress the backlash of the saber intent after using it once. However, at this time, Chu Xiu did not suppress the backlash. Instead, the black gas in his eyes became thicker. The power from the Avicii hell coiled around the blade of Chu Xiu, and even along the blade, it wrapped around his intact right arm. At this moment, the aura on Chu Xiu's body was like that of a devil from hell. Even his eyes had become extremely cold, and there were no longer any emotions that a human should have. When this terrifying saber fell, it was as if it had been slashed out from hell, causing Zen Master Heng Shan to suddenly widen his eyes. As a member of the Buddhist sect, when he was young, he had killed many demonic evildoers to enforce justice on behalf of heaven. However, as he gradually grew older, he needed to nourish his qi and blood to preserve his strength, which was why he did not act as frequently as he did when he was young. However, Chu Xiu's saber in front of him showed him what a real demonic saber was. He cultivated the great Vajra subduing demon fist. Vajra could subdue demons, but it could not subdue the second saber from the Avicii hell. Open! Zen Master Heng Shan shouted angrily. He could not care less about suppressing the purple sun devil flame that was burning his meridians in his body. His hands formed a seal, and endless golden gang energy erupted. Like a demon-subduing pestle, it suddenly smashed down on Chu Xiu's saber. Vajra subduing demons, overcoming adversity to become Buddha. The golden gang energy collided with the black blade, but what erupted was a bloody desolation. The gang energy exploded, and the blade fell to the ground. Zen Master Heng Shan was directly cut in half by Chu Xiu's saber from top to bottom. Chapter 119. The power of the Devil Saber was beyond everyone's expectation. No one expected that Zen Master Heng Shan of Jingguang Temple, who was considered famous in East Yen, would die in the hands of an inner gang realm martial artist. And it was ironic. Zen Master Heng Shan spent half his life killing demons, but in the end he died under such a strange demonic blade. He was cut into two by the second blade of the Avicii Dao 3 blades. Blood and internal organs covered the ground. This could not be considered a complete corpse. At this moment, Chu Xiu's appearance was even more frightening. Black fog was wrapped around his blade, his hand, and his eyes. Chu Xiu's hand that was holding the blade was trembling non-stop. If anyone were to look at Chu Xiu's eyes now, they would only see an ice-cold darkness like the abyss of hell, making people shudder. Now that Chu Xiu was wearing a mask, no one noticed. But in fact, Chu Xiu's face was already distorted beyond belief. The backlash of the first blade of the Avicii Dao 3 blades could be easily suppressed by Chu Xiu's current strength. But the backlash of the second blade was more than twice as strong as the first blade. With Chu Xiu's current strength, he had to use his strongest willpower to coordinate with the glazed golden thread Gu's power to dissipate the black gas in his eyes. Even the black gas on his red sleeve blade also dissipated. After completely suppressing the backlash of the Avicii Dao 3 blades, Chu Xiu heaved a sigh of relief. Using 2 blades consecutively was already Chu Xiu's limit. Now, if Chu Xiu dared to use the third blade and use the complete Avicii Dao 3 blades, even the glazed golden thread Gu would not be able to save Chu Xiu. While Chu Xiu was exchanging blows with Zen Master Heng Shan, Yan Bugui and Tangya had also achieved some results. Previously, Chu Xiu had asked Fire Slave who was stronger, Yan Bugui or Tangya. At that time, the Fire Slave had said that Yan Bugui should be slightly stronger, but he could not figure out Tangya's background. He always felt that Tangya was hiding something, and what he had shown now was not his true strength. But when it came to Yan Bugui, everyone in the Heavenly Sin branch knew how crazy he could be when he fought, even though he seemed to be a man of few words. Yan Bugui's nickname was Broken Sword. He usually carried a heavy sword on his back, which was wrapped in coarse cloth. Judging from its shape, it should be more complete. But now that Yan Bugui had unsheathed his heavy sword, Chu Xiu realized that his sword was really a broken sword. There were obvious cracks on the heavy sword, but it seemed to have been repaired later. However, a broken sword was a broken sword. It could not be compared with a fully formed weapon. Therefore, it could be considered as a broken sword. Yan Bugui's sword technique was very strange. In fact, from Chu Xiu's point of view, it couldn't even be called a sword technique. The heavy sword in his hand was simply like a heavy hammer, an incomparably powerful heavy weapon. On top of that, the inner force that he cultivated was incomparably mystical. He could actually make the heavy sword in his hand become even more powerful and heavy. When he swung his sword over, other than the martial monks of the Great Light Temple who had incomparably great strength, there were almost no ordinary warriors who could block his sword. Therefore, when Chu Xiu was fighting with Zen Master Heng Shan, Yan Bugui had already used his sword aura to blow a martial artist away. Then, he seized the opportunity and swung his huge sword down. That's right, it was not a slash, but a slap. The crowd could only hear a loud explosion, and in an instant, a mist of blood swirled in the air. One of the spirit sword sect's martial artists was actually directly smashed into a meat paste by his heavy sword, completely out of shape. This scene was much more terrifying than Chu Xiu chopping someone into two. Not to mention these martial artists, even the other Blue Dragon Society assassins had a look of awe and fear on their faces. The missions that Yan Bugui carried out were one after another, and none of them were able to leave a complete corpse. There were even times when the employer required the target's head. At that time, Yan Bugui would only pay a little attention and smack the target's body into meat paste, before bringing the head to the employer. Therefore, compared to Yan Bugui, although Chu Xiu was ruthless, he was not as vicious as Yan Bugui. While Yan Bugui had a harvest, Tang Ye's side was not bad either. To be honest, even Chu Xiu could not understand Tang Ye's martial arts. Tang Ye's footwork was very fast and extremely flexible. The other party must have cultivated some kind of speed footwork. Moreover, the weapon that he used was the short knife that Chu Xiu used before. It was not even as long as an arm, and it was exceptionally sinister and ruthless. He didn't use any powerful martial arts, but Tang Ye was proficient in many methods, including fist, palm, finger, and so on. However, they were not too strong. When he fought against Yao Nanqian and that spirit sword sect's martial artist, Tang Ye was always slippery. Although it seemed dangerous to fight one against two, he always managed to escape at the most critical moment, and while at the same time, launched a sneak attack on these two people. His moves were steady, accurate, and ruthless. Therefore, in the end, Yao Nanqian and that spirit sword sect's disciple were already covered with injuries. On the other hand, Tang Ye basically had no injuries. And just now, when Yao Nanqian saw Zen Master Heng Shan being chopped into two by Chu Xiu's knife, he could not help but cry out in grief, "Monk!" He and Zen Master Heng Shan have been friends for decades, and the two of them could be said to be friends through life and death. Otherwise, Zen Master Heng Shan would not have come to witness his washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony. As a result, because of him, Zen Master Heng Shan died here. This made Yao Nanqian unable to help but feel sad. His mind was affected, and even his sword momentum was a bit messed up. At this time, Tang Ye's eyes revealed a touch of thick murderous intention. His hand moved, and two strange hidden weapons have already broken through the air. The people present could only hear the sound of breaking through the air, but they didn't even see what those hidden weapons looked like. Yao Nanqian and the other spirit sword sect's disciples subconsciously raised their swords to resist. After two clanging sounds, the two of them simultaneously retreated. However, at this time, Tang Ye's figure directly arrived in front of Yao Nanqian. His hands were like afterimages, and his fingers were fierce and swift. The sky was filled with finger shadows along with the explosion of the aura shield, which blasted Yao Nanqian back step by step and directly broke the opponent's protective true qi. Moreover, no one knew when, but the knife in his hand had once again appeared in his hand. Like a maggot attached to a bone, he slashed at Yao Nanqian's neck. Suddenly, a line of blood appeared, and his figure immediately retreated to meet the other spirit sword sect's martial artist. Yao Nanqian couldn't believe it as he covered his throat. Blood continued to spurt out, and his consciousness gradually disappeared along with the flow of blood. He wanted to quit Jianghu, but Yao Nanqian never thought that the day he quit Jianghu would be the day of his death. Even before his death, he couldn't figure out who wanted to kill him. Although he died in the hands of the Blue Dragon Society, the Blue Dragon Society was just a sword to kill him. The person who really wanted to kill him had always been hiding behind the scenes. Besides the Heavenly Sin Branch leader, even Chu Xiu and the others didn't know about it. This Yao Nanxian was still a muddle-headed ghost until his death. Chu Xiu looked at Yao Nanxian's body in silence. Yao Nanxian's death meant that the task was already half completed. He didn't need to care about the other onlookers. When Yao Nanxian was still alive, they didn't stand up for him, so after his death, they would definitely not stand up for him. Speaking of which, Yao Nanxian's death was somewhat unjust. Chu Xiu dared to guarantee that if he didn't intend to quit Jianghu and stayed in the Spirit Sword sect as the Great Elder, absolutely no one would dare to kill him. The person who asked the Blue Dragon Society to kill Yao Nanxian certainly had a life and death enmity with Yao Nanxian, but why didn't he do it earlier? Either his strength was not enough, or his financial resources were not enough. Asking the Blue Dragon Society to kill an old guy who was about to retire and killing an elder of the Spirit Sword sect in the Eastern Yan dynasty were two completely different concepts. The former was a level 6 task, so Chu Xiu and the others could solve it without the Heavenly Sin Branch leader's help. The tea cools when the person is gone. How many people would be willing to risk their lives to help an old guy who was about to retire from Jianghu? There were so many martial artists present, but in the end, less than 1/10 of them came forward. If it was the latter, then the Blue Dragon Society would have to face the entire Spirit Sword sect. Although the relationship between the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect, Lin Feiyu, and Yao Nanxian didn't seem to be very good, no matter how bad it was, Yao Nanxian was still a disciple of the Spirit Sword sect, so Lin Feiyu couldn't just watch his own elder be killed in front of him. Moreover, if he wanted to deal with the entire Spirit Sword sect, even the Heavenly Sin Branch leader would have a hard time. It was said that the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect, Frost Moon Small Sword, Lin Feiyu, was only one step away from reaching the realm of one with the heaven, which was not much worse than the Heavenly Sin Branch leader. Moreover, the Spirit Sword sect still had the array formation and other things left behind by its ancestors. It was still unknown whether the entire Heavenly Sin Branch leader could destroy the Spirit Sword sect. Even if Yao Nanxian's enemy could come up with such terrifying financial resources, the Heavenly Sin Branch leader might not necessarily accept this task. Therefore, Yao Nanxian's so-called withdrawal from Jianghu was actually courting death. He wanted to settle his own grievances, but the problem was that other people didn't want to settle it. At this time, Chu Xiu didn't intervene in the fight because the overall situation was already decided. After Tang Ye and Yen Bugui dealt with all of their opponents, the entire Yao family village's martial artists were almost massacred by them. The remaining people had already fled, and the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society were too lazy to chase after them. Although the number of Yao family village's martial artists was more than 10 times that of the Blue Dragon Society's assassins, compared to these Blue Dragon Society's assassins, the Yao family village's disciples were obviously not worth mentioning. It was almost a one-sided massacre. Seeing that the task had been completed, Chu Xiu waved his hand. The people of the Blue Dragon Society immediately turned around and left. No one dared to stop them. Looking at the Yao family village that was covered in blood, the people present suddenly looked at each other in dismay. This was the first time that someone had tried to wash their hands in a golden basin and ended up destroying their own family. At this time, everyone couldn't help but think of the words that Chu Xiu said. The world is like the tide, and people are like the water. Only a few people in Jianghu can return. It was easy to step into this Jianghu, but it was not so easy to leave. Some of the people present had even seen how impressive Yao Nanxian's golden basin washing ceremony was and wondered if they should do the same when they were old. However, after seeing this scene, they immediately dispelled that idea. Chapter 120. The news of the annihilation of the Yao village spread far and wide. It even caused quite a stir in the entire East Yan. One reason was that Yao Nanxian had already caused quite a stir when he prepared to wash his hands in the golden basin. Now, his entire family was annihilated during his own washing ceremony. This series of events left those who knew of it unable to react in time. Moreover, the annihilation of the Yao village allowed the Blue Dragon Society to reappear in the eyes of the people of the East Yan. When the Heavenly Sin Branch was annihilated, the Blue Dragon Society almost disappeared from the East Yen. Even though the Blue Dragon Society later sent a new Heavenly Sin branch leader, the Blue Dragon Society only fought on a small scale most of the time and did not cause too much of a stir. The annihilation of the Yao village was the first time the Blue Dragon Society took action on a large scale. It also made everyone realize that there was another vicious snake in the East Yen martial arts world. At the same time, the names of the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society who participated in the annihilation also spread. However, the one in the limelight was Chu Xiu. Actually, based on their battle records, Tang Ye and Yen Bugui had killed more people than Chu Xiu. The two of them had fought against two opponents at the physical invulnerability realm at the same time, and had easily dealt with two opponents at the physical invulnerability realm. Especially Tang Ye, Yao Nanqian had died at his hands. However, Chu Xiu was a person on the Longhu leaderboard. Previously, there were people who said that it was unfair for Chu Xiu to be ranked 18th on the leaderboard and that Wind's Sweeping Tower must have made some secret deal to put him on the leaderboard. However, now that Chu Xiu showed his strength and killed Zen Master Heng Shan, a veteran physical invulnerability expert, in front of everyone, no one said that there was something wrong with the Wind's Sweeping Tower's leaderboard anymore. At this time, in a mountain forest at the border of Mount Tai County and Forest County, countless military camps were located on the mountainside. Their flags fluttered in the wind. This small mountain was the camp of the Mountain Garrison Army. After Xiang Weiyang returned from Yao Clan village, he went straight back to the barracks. Along the way, when the soldiers saw him, they would respectfully greet him and call him Commandant Xiang. The mountain-subduing army had just begun to guard the east of Yen. General Yin Luohua even requested that they come to the mountain forest to train every day. In the end, they simply moved the entire military camp to the mountain. Xiang Weiyang opened the main tent and walked in. There was only a middle-aged man wearing black tiger armor inside, reading a book. The middle-aged man looked very refined and had a gentle temperament. If it weren't for the armor he was wearing, one would think that he was just a scholar and not a murderous general. This person was the mountain-subduing army's general, Roaring Tiger Yin Luohua. Although Yin Luohua looked like a Confucian scholar, he was actually a vicious and merciless person. Just look at his nickname, Tiger Tiger. What was poison? Poison was a legendary poisonous bird. Every feather on its body was extremely poisonous. Yin Luohua was called Tiger Tiger because he was vicious and decisive. He was like a ferocious tiger coming down the mountain, unstoppable. With these two characteristics combined, Yin Luohua was very famous in the Northern Yen army. Seeing Xiang Weiyang come in, Yin Luohua asked, "Is the matter with Yao Clan village over?" Xiang Weiyang chuckled, "It's over. That Yao Nanqian died a miserable death." Yin Luohua was surprised. Yao Nanqian died? What happened? After Xiang Weiyang told him everything, Yin Luohua pondered for a while and finally said in a deep voice, "A storm is brewing. The east of Yen, or should I say the northern Yen pugilistic world, is not going to be peaceful soon." Xiang Weiyang hesitated. "General, it can't be, right? The assassins of the Blue Dragon Society have killed more than one family over the years. With the strength of a Heavenly Sin branch, it shouldn't be able to affect the entire East Yen pugilistic world." Yin Luohua shook his head. "This time, the Heavenly Sin branch is just a prelude. It means that the Heavenly Sin branch that was destroyed by the Big Sects 3 years ago has once again appeared in the world. 3 years ago, the Heavenly Sin branch was destroyed not because they killed someone they shouldn't have, but because they took something they shouldn't have. That's why the entire Heavenly Sin branch was killed. In fact, these big sects are a bit sensitive. Not only did they take back the things they shouldn't have, but they even joined forces to destroy a Blue Dragon Society branch. One has to know that the entire Blue Dragon Society only has 36 Heavenly Dipper branches. The current leader of the Blue Dragon Society, Crescent Green Dragon, Bu Tianen, is famous for his bad temper. His mood is unpredictable, and he's basically a madman. What they did was equivalent to slapping him in the face several times. How could he not fight them to the death? I didn't see that battle either. Anyway, the aftermath of that year hasn't dissipated yet. In the end, the Blue Dragon Society sent such a troublemaker, the Heavenly Sin Branch leader. If I'm not wrong, he won't be able to endure it for long and will jump out to cause trouble. Now that I look at it, it seems like I'm right. Xiang Weiyang said in surprise, "Do you know the current Heavenly Sin Branch leader of the Blue Dragon Society?" "Kind of. We've had some dealings." Yin Luohua said in a deep voice. This Heavenly Sin Branch leader used to be an assassin at the headquarters of the Blue Dragon Society. He's very strong, and even I don't have the confidence to win against him. However, as a person, I can only say that he has great ambitions but little talent. He's a bit too arrogant. Back then, when the Heavenly Sin Branch was completely wiped out, the most suitable thing to do was to calmly develop. However, this person doesn't have a patient personality. With his strength, if the Heavenly Sin Branch starts to improve, he'll definitely make some big moves. Now that you've seen it, accepting the mission from the Yao clan is the first step. Xiang Weiyang laughed coldly and said, "In any case, no matter what, let them kill. This group of people from the pugilistic world is killing here. Isn't it better for us to just watch from the sidelines?" Yin Luohua said in a deep voice, "That's what I thought before. However, with the current situation of the Imperial Court, I'm afraid we can't just watch from the sidelines. No matter what, we have to participate." Xiang Weiyang said in surprise, "What's the Imperial Court doing?" Yin Luohua looked at Xiang Weiyang and suddenly said in a low voice, "You should know the situation of our northern Yen in the past. Not only was we suppressed by Eastern Qi, but we were also suppressed by West Chu. Fortunately, the current emperor is a great strategist, and he united the northern Yen martial world to eliminate the 36 northern bandits and even suppress Eastern Qi. However, in recent years, these people from the pugilistic world have become more and more outrageous. They've caused too much trouble. Even in the northern floating snow city, the words of our northern Yen imperial court are not as effective as the words of the northern floating snow city. It doesn't matter if they claim to be the meritorious subjects of Yen kingdom, or if it's purely for their own benefit, we, northern Yen, have to intervene. Otherwise, who in this world would take the imperial court seriously?" Xiang Weiyang's heart trembled when he heard this, and he said, "General, is this the order of His Majesty?" Yin Luohua said faintly, "To be precise, this is the order of the imperial court, but you don't have to be nervous. Right now, the entire northern Yen pugilistic world is still peaceful, and it's not the time to make a move yet. It's just that a storm is brewing, and the rain hasn't fallen yet. You should cultivate to the realm of 3 flowers at one's prominence as soon as possible. After I promote you to Deputy General, I will go to the capital. I don't know who the new general of the Mountain Subduing Army will be, but with your qualifications in the Mountain Subduing Army, whoever takes over the Mountain Subduing Army will use you." Xiang Weiyang said in surprise, "General, you're going to be transferred back to the capital?" Yin Luohua nodded and said, "I'm about to condense the true martial elixir and step into the 3rd realm of spirit condensation. When the time comes, I will probably go to the 5 armies of the state as a deputy general. The real elites of the Yen kingdom were all in the 5 armies of the state. Although Yin Luohua was now the general of the Mountain Subduing Army, being promoted to deputy general seemed to lower his status, but it was actually a promotion." Xiang Weiyang's eyes showed a touch of joy. He cupped his hands and said, "Congratulations, General." He was Yin Luo's confidant. Now that his master's strength had gone a step further, he naturally felt honored. Yin Luohua patted him on the shoulder and said, "Now that you have the merit, the only thing you lack is strength. The sooner you reach the realm of 3 flowers and 5 qi, the better I can find a position for you in the 5 armies of the state." "Thank you, General." Inside the Spirit Sword sect, a middle-aged man in his 40s, dressed in blue with a long sword across his knees, sat cross-legged in front of a waterfall, listening to a martial artist's report about the Yao family village. This person was the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect, Frost Moon Sword Lin Feiyu. After listening to the disciple's report, Lin Feiyu just nodded and closed his eyes. Seeing that the sect leader didn't speak, the disciple behind him hesitated for a long time before saying, "Sect leader, how should we deal with this matter?" Lin Feiyu opened his eyes and asked, Why should we deal with it? That disciple subconsciously said, Elder Yao is, after all, an elder of our spirit sword sect. Moreover, 3 of our physical invulnerability martial uncles died. How could our spirit sword sect not respond? Lin Feiyu took a deep look at that disciple, and then lightly said, Remember, from the moment Yao Nanqian decided to retire from Jianghu, he was no longer a member of our spirit sword sect. As for those 3 idiots, they fought to the death for a guy who was about to retire from Jianghu, and finally lost their lives in the Yao family village. Do you want our spirit sword sect to avenge them? Moreover, even if our spirit sword sect wants to avenge them, who should we look for? Who hired the Blue Dragon Society to kill Yao Nanqian? Even Yao Nanqian himself didn't know. Look for the Blue Dragon Society for revenge? Everyone knows that the Blue Dragon Society is just a sword in someone else's hand. Moreover, the Blue Dragon Society's whereabouts are hidden, and the strength of the Heavenly Sin Division is stronger than our Spirit Sword sect. How could we go to the Blue Dragon Society's door to look for trouble? From now on, this matter is over. I don't want to hear anyone in the sect discussing this matter, do you understand? Upon hearing this, that disciple's heart suddenly turned cold and he nodded again and again. Only then did he realize that there seemed to be a rumor in the sect that when Elder Yao was young, he seemed to have suppressed the sect leader. Therefore, when the sect leader took the position, Elder Yao no longer held any power. In the end, he even had to retire from Jianghu. Previously, he thought that this was just a rumor, but now, it seemed like it was true. Chapter 121. The northern Yan country was a large wasteland. Its area was even larger than 7 or 8 counties. However, because of its desolate land and harsh climate, it was sparsely populated. Thus, the northern Yan imperial court did not set up a county there. However, in this slightly desolate northern Yan country, there were several great forces that were listed in the Jianghu song by wind sweeping building. For example, in the northernmost part of the northern Yan country, the area where the snow never melted belonged to the northern floating snow city. Although there was not much snow in the northwest, the weather was dry and desolate. A giant straight peak stood in the northwest wasteland. This was the Great Light Peak, where the Great Light Temple of the Northern Buddhist sect was located. Under the jurisdiction of the Great Light Temple were the 3 great meditation halls and 6 great martial academies, all of which were located above the Great Light Temple. At this time, in the Jianghu Martial Academy, one of the 6 great martial academies, a 40-years-old tall monk looked at the information written on the paper. His eyes showed a touch of anger. After throwing the letter, the monk was about to go out, but he was stopped by an old monk in the meditation room. Mingchen, where are you going? Mingchen coldly said, Master, when senior brother Hengshan was helping Spirit Sword Sect's Abbot Yao Nanqian wash his hands in the Golden Basin ceremony, he was brutally killed by those villains of the Azure Dragon Society. How could I just ignore it? In the entire northern Yan country, almost all of the Buddhist temples respected the Great Light Temple. Therefore, in terms of seniority, Zen Master Hengshan and this Mingchen were of the same generation. Because Zen Master Hengshan was older, he was respectfully called senior brother by Mingchen. Moreover, the relationship between these 2 people was indeed good, although there was a big gap between their identities. One was the martial monk instructor of the Jianghu Martial School, responsible for teaching the young monks of the Jianghu Martial School, while the other was the abbot of a small northern Yan temple. In the past, Zen Master Hengshan was invited to the Great Light Temple to discuss Zen. Of course, with his identity and Buddhist cultivation, he was not qualified to discuss Zen with the important people of the Great Light Temple. The ones who received him were the disciples of the 3 great meditation halls and the 6 great martial academies. At that time, the one who received Zen Master Hengshan was this Mingchen. It was also because of that time that the 2 of them became good friends. Although the 2 of them were dozens of years apart, they had become good friends despite the difference in age. When Mingchen left the Great Light Temple, he would often visit the Jinhua Temple. For the past 2 years, he had been in seclusion in the Great Light Temple. He did not expect that the moment he came out of seclusion, he would receive news of Zen Master Hengshan's death. The old monk shook his head and said, "Once you enter the pugilistic world, you will be tainted with karma. This is Heng Shan's karma, he can't blame others. You treated Heng Shan as a good friend, and he also treated Yao Nanqian as a good friend, which is why he was killed. But the key point is that we don't even know who hired the Blue Dragon Society. Who are you going to take revenge on?" Ming Chen said coldly, "Yao Nanqian was killed because of his own grudges. I don't care who the people who want to avenge him find. I only know that it was the Blue Dragon Society who killed senior brother Heng Shan. I naturally have to seek revenge from the Blue Dragon Society, from the blood demon Chu Xiu." The old monk shook his head and said, "Ming Chen, you have reached a critical moment in cultivating the Furious Diamond Heart Sutra. Any small matter in the outside world will incite the anger in your heart. The Furious Diamond Eyes is to suppress evil and kill demons. Killing one person to save 10, this is the Diamond Heart technique, the heart of a bodhisattva. Your heart is filled with anger and murderous intent. If I ask you to kill again, I'm afraid you will be completely overwhelmed by anger. You will be filled with resentment, which will lead to the birth of a heart demon. So this time, you can't go." "But Master," the old monk said solemnly, "there are no buts. Moreover, the heavenly sin branch is very sensitive now. The abbot and the hall masters have already ordered that we are not allowed to have any conflict with the Blue Dragon Society. 3 years ago, the head of the Blue Dragon Society, Bu Tianen, came to provoke the Great Light Temple. He fought with the hall master of the Daredevil Zen Hall, the Nine Wonders Dragon Tree, Martial Uncle Shuyun, and was forced to retreat by the abbot. However, that Bu Tianen is crazy and temperamental. If the Blue Dragon Society really wants to fight the Great Light Temple to the death, how many disciples of the Great Light Temple will die if the assassins of the 36 Big Dipper divisions all target the Great Light Temple? The northern Yen pugilistic world is chaotic enough. The Great Light Temple is in the northern light peak and doesn't want to interfere with the chaos of the pugilistic world. We definitely can't take the initiative to cause trouble. If the Blue Dragon Society touched the disciples of the Great Light Temple, then the Great Light Temple doesn't mind killing the Heavenly Sin branch again. However, if you cause the Great Light Temple and the Blue Dragon Society to form an irreconcilable enmity because of your personal grudges, can you bear the consequences?" Ming Chen broke out in a cold sweat after hearing his master's words. He was so angry just now that he didn't think too much about it. The old monk sighed and said, "All right, go back to your cultivation." Ming Chen, among the disciples of the Vajra institution, your advancement in strength is not the strongest. However, you are the one who works the hardest in your daily cultivation and has the strongest willpower. When you can completely control your emotions, then your Furious Vajra Heart Sutra will be considered complete. "Yes, Master." Ming Chen respectfully bowed to the old monk, but he didn't dare to bring up the matter of seeking revenge from the Blue Dragon Society again. Of course, he also suppressed this hatred in the bottom of his heart. The Furious Vajra was not to kill, but to save people. However, if he couldn't even take revenge for his good friend, then his Furious Vajra would be too aggrieved. Due to the destruction of the Yao village and the death of Yao Nanqian, the entire martial arts world in the east of Yen became tense. This was something that Chu Xiu and the other assassins of the Blue Dragon Society didn't notice. After the destruction of the Yao village, the reward for the mission was distributed. Chu Xiu felt that he had suffered a loss. The reward for a 6th-level mission was naturally very generous, but the problem was how many people would get a share of the reward? Even if it was according to the contribution, Chu Xiu could only be ranked above average. After all, Yen Bugui and Tang Ya had killed 2 physical invulnerability experts. Moreover, there were so many assassins participating in the mission. You split some, and he split some. In the end, the reward for each person wasn't much. At least, Chu Xiu had spent so much effort to kill a physical invulnerability expert, but the reward he received was less than the reward he received for completing the lowest level 5th level mission alone. However, this battle brought many benefits to Chu Xiu. At the very least, Chu Xiu could confirm that he already had the strength to kill a physical invulnerability expert alone. Of course, the process was also more dangerous. Although Zen Master Heng Shan was already old, and his qi and blood had begun to decline. He had dominated the martial arts world in the east of Yen in his early years. He had rich combat experience, and the martial arts techniques he had mastered were also very strong. He had even forced Chu Xiu to use the second move of the 3 cuts of Avicii, which he still couldn't fully control. With Chu Xiu's current strength, if his opponent was at the level of Yuhenian, it would probably be much easier to deal with him. During this period of time, Chu Xiu didn't stay idle. He continued to accept missions, cultivate, and accept more missions. Moreover, after the Yao village incident, Chu Xiu could be said to be the most famous assassin in the Heavenly Sin branch. There were even many missions that were specifically for Chu Xiu to do. At this time, Chu Xiu finally understood what the Ghost Hand King meant when he said that assassins also needed fame. The commission for these kinds of missions that designated assassins to carry out was extremely generous. If the employer wanted to designate Chu Xiu to do it, they just needed to pay more. As long as the commission was high, even the Heavenly Sin branch leader could do it himself. Therefore, now Chu Xiu only picked those missions that were specifically designated for him to complete. Once he carried out such a mission, the reward was 30% higher than ordinary missions. During the free time of carrying out missions, Chu Xiu also went to Old Huang's place to see if there was any progress on his side. Pushing open the door of Old Huang's courtyard, a sharp cold light flashed in front of Chu Xiu's eyes. 2 flying knives directly stabbed at him at an astonishing speed. However, no matter how fast the flying knives were, they were not as fast as Chu Xiu's knife. He unsheathed the red sleeve saber in his hand and shattered the flying dagger in front of him. Old man Huang hurriedly ran out and saw Chu Xiu in front of him. He could not help but smile awkwardly and said, "This old man did not know that official Chu had come. Please forgive me." Chu Xiu looked at the flying dagger on the ground and asked in surprise, "Did you set this up?" Old man Huang smiled bitterly and said, "This old man is a cripple now and is already unable to set up a complete array formation. I also don't have the money to hire martial artists with superb strength to protect me. Therefore, I can only think of a way to temporarily combine the array formation with the mechanical concealed weapons. Using the power of the array formation to automatically activate the concealed weapons, it can also be considered as a small protective item. Otherwise, if I encounter bandits or something, I won't even have the strength to fight back." As he spoke, Old Huang glanced at the 2 flying knives on the ground with some heartache. The materials of these 2 flying knives had reached the 3rd transition. In the end, they were chopped in half by Chu Xiu's saber. He felt his heart ache. Chu Xiu said indifferently, "I came to look for you for no other reason. I just want to see how the restoration of the Cultivation transmission jade slip is going." Old man Huang nodded and said, "The restoration is going well. In less than a month, official Chu can come and get the item." Moreover, this old man also discovered some interesting things. This Cultivation jade slip contains a Buddhist martial art. "Master Chu, you must be careful when you practice it." Old man Huang's words were really for Chu Xiu's own good. He already knew Chu Xiu's identity. Blood Demon Chu Xiu, a rising star of the younger generation in the East Yen pugilistic world. He was the most famous assassin in the Heavenly Sin branch. Needless to say, he definitely cultivated demonic techniques. Everyone in the pugilistic world knew that Buddhist cultivation methods and demonic cultivation methods restrained each other. If Chu Xiu were to first cultivate demonic cultivation methods before cultivating Buddhist cultivation methods, it would be easy for something to go wrong. He might even suffer from qi deviation or something like that. Actually, Chu Xiu suffering from qi deviation had nothing to do with him. However, he was the one who restored the Cultivation transmission jade slip. If Chu Xiu made a mistake in his own cultivation and thought that he had done something to the Cultivation transmission jade slip while repairing it, he would deliberately harm him. Or if his own skills were not good enough, causing problems in the Cultivation transmission jade slip, and in the end, he would kill him in a rage. Old man Huang would be the one who would be wronged. Therefore, Old man Huang explained the matter first. Cultivation techniques could not be cultivated casually. Don't look for me if something happens in the future. Chapter 122. When Chu Xiu heard Old Man Huang say that the cultivation method in the cultivation transmission jade slip was actually a Buddhist cultivation method, he was really a little surprised. Because the cultivation techniques of the Taoist and Buddhist lineages were relatively complete, there were relatively few inheritances in the outside world. When the Jianghu family was at its peak, it actually had nothing to do with Buddhism, so this jade slip should have been accidentally obtained by them. However, because of some conflict or other reasons when they separated from the family, it was finally broken into two halves, with each side holding one half. As for Old Man Huang's worry that Chu Xiu would make a mistake while cultivating both the demonic and Buddhist techniques at the same time, Chu Xiu was not worried at all. In fact, Chu Xiu now belonged to the tripartite cultivation of Taoism, Buddhism, and demonic. The Xiantian skill was a Taoist's secret manual. It did not have any attribute bonuses, but it was the most important, so there was no need to worry about conflicts with any techniques. Although Chu Xiu did not directly cultivate the Buddhist techniques, because of the glazed golden threads goo, his body also contained the power of Buddhism. As for the demonic techniques, Chu Xiu had many. Whether it was the Avicii Three Blades or the Heaven and Earth Merciless Yin and Yang Great Sorrow, they were all extremely powerful demonic techniques. Perhaps it was because Chu Xiu had turned these three powers into his own foundation from the beginning, and even the glazed golden threads goo was an existence that was connected to Chu Xiu's bloodline, so the conflict of powers did not happen to Chu Xiu. Naturally, Chu Xiu did not have to worry about the situation of qi deviation in the later stages. Chu Xiu said to Old Man Huang faintly, "I know this. You just need to repair the jade slip. You don't have to worry about the rest." After saying that, Chu Xiu directly left, leaving Old Man Huang behind, shaking his head. If it were not for Chu Xiu's generosity, he really would not be willing to cooperate with a famous killer like Chu Xiu. It was too worrying, and he had to be careful with his words, afraid of angering the other party. After nothing happened on Old Man Huang's side, Chu Xiu first returned to the Blue Dragon Society. However, just as he returned to the underground palace, Ghost Hand King stopped him. "Don't accept any missions for the next few days. Lord Branch Leader wants to gather the entire Heavenly Sin Branch to carry out a mission." Chu Xiu frowned. Another group mission? To be honest, Chu Xiu did not want to carry out this kind of group mission again after completing it once. The rewards were too low. However, now that he was under someone else's roof, he had no choice but to lower his head. With the personality of the Heavenly Sin Branch Master, if Chu Xiu dared to disobey his orders, the consequences could be imagined. After all, Ghost Hand King and Fire Slave had once said that if one wanted to do well in the Heavenly Sin Branch, it was enough to grasp one rule, and that was to absolutely obey the branch leader's orders. The Ghostly Hand King said, "This can be considered a group mission, but it's not a group mission issued by someone outside. Instead, the branch master wants to do something, and he needs all the assassins in the Sin Branch to cooperate. But don't worry, Lord Branch Lord is quite generous. This mission will be given to everyone according to the reward of a level 6 mission." Chu Xiu shrugged. Even if it was a level 6 mission, there would not be much. At most, it was a psychological comfort so that everyone would not work for nothing. However, Heavenly Sin Branch Leader's series of actions made Chu Xiu feel that he was a bit too impatient. Regarding information about Heavenly Sin Branch Leader, Chu Xiu had heard a little about it in the original story, but it was not very detailed. This Heavenly Sin Branch Leader might not be the strongest branch leader in the history of the Blue Dragon Society, but he had the strongest presence and was the most troublesome branch leader. Usually, the leaders of the Azure Dragon Society treated the branch of the Azure Dragon Society as a pure organization of assassins. However, the leader of the Heavenly Sin Society often led the members of the Heavenly Sin Society to stir up trouble in the Jianghu of the east of Yen Kingdom, causing quite a stir in the Jianghu. Chu Xiu had this feeling when he went on a group mission. This time, Chu Xiu was sure that Heavenly Sin Branch Leader was gradually following the original story. However, this did not matter to Chu Xiu. His strength was there, and if there were benefits in following Heavenly Sin Branch Leader, he would naturally listen to his orders. However, if it was the other way around, it was hard to say what he would do. As Chu Xiu was talking to Ghost Hand King, Tanya wandered out of nowhere. He was playing with an exquisite golden dragon tail soul-hunting dart and asked Ghost Hand King, "Ghost Hand King, do you know what Lord Branch Leader is going to do this time?" Ghost Hand King smiled bitterly and said, "Lord Branch Leader didn't tell me the specific situation. He only told me to stay here and wait for you guys to come back to inform you to stop the mission and prepare to make a move together." Tanya sighed and shook his head. "This is really troublesome. Actually, as a person, it is best to be more simple. The same goes for assassins. Our Blue Dragon Society is getting more and more complicated." Ghost Hand King frowned and said, "What do you mean?" Tanya did not answer Ghost Hand King's question, but asked Chu Xiu instead, "What do you think?" Chu Xiu just said indifferently, "In the underworld, even the simplest things will become complicated. Just get used to it." Tanya laughed and said, "Yeah, just get used to it." Unfortunately, I have never been used to this kind of thing. After saying that, Tanya walked away while humming a tune that had a hint of Sichuan flavor. Ghost Hand King looked at Chu Xiu and said, "What does he mean?" Chu Xiu patted Ghost Hand King's shoulder and said, "Don't beat around the bush. Since you already understand, why are you still asking?" After saying that, Chu Xiu also turned around and left. Ghost Hand King remained silent. He had been an assassin in the Blue Dragon Society for more than 10 years. Ghost Hand King was not an idiot. In fact, he always knew, but he was just pretending. Blue Dragon Society was a simple assassin organization. They did not participate in the disputes of the underworld. They were only a double-edged demonic sword in everyone's hands. Whoever wanted to use this sword had to use blood to nourish it. While this sword helped you kill people, it also nourished the sword's power. In fact, this was the true purpose of the Blue Dragon Society. Only by being a pure sword could they slowly grow in the endless killing of the underworld. It could even be said that as long as there was hatred and killing in the underworld, there would be value in the existence of the Blue Dragon Society. However, under the leadership of the Heavenly Sin Division leader, the current Heavenly Sin Division wasn't as pure as it used to be. The Heavenly Sin Division leader didn't want the Heavenly Sin Division to follow the old path of the Azure Dragon Society. He wanted to make something simple complicated. As for whether this matter was good or bad, even the Ghost Hand King himself couldn't tell. However, as the trusted subordinate of the Heavenly Sin Branch leader, he helped the Heavenly Sin Branch manage the people in the branch. Naturally, he couldn't speak carelessly. Even if he understood some things, he had to pretend that he didn't. 2 days later, Yen Bugui returned from his mission. The Heavenly Sin Branch leader called Chu Xiu and the other martial artists with code names into a meeting room and explained to them the mission that the Heavenly Sin Branch had to carry out this time. Looking at the people present, the Heavenly Sin Branch leader said in a deep voice, "This time's mission is not a mission from the outside world. It is also something that I am preparing to steal. But don't worry, as long as this mission is successfully completed, your rewards will not be lacking." Among the people present, besides Yen Bugui who still had a cold expression, the others all said in unison, "We will follow the instructions of the branch leader." The Heavenly Sin Branch leader nodded. He was not dissatisfied with Yen Bugui. That guy was just like that. The Heavenly Sin Branch leader said in a deep voice, "Half a month ago, a small aristocratic family in the Linzhong Commandery, the Fong family, bought an inconspicuous secret box from a secret box auction. Inside it was a treasure, the Blood Jade Exquisite. The Blood Jade Exquisite was the treasure of the ancient Blood River sect. Legend has it that it was refined from the essence of tens of thousands of martial artists. After refining it, it could strengthen one's qi and blood. It could also transform one's own gang qi into the incomparably powerful blood-refined God gang. After obtaining the treasure, although the Fong family tried their best to prevent the news from spreading, the news of the birth of the Blood Jade Exquisite was still found out by the two sects around the Fong family, the Green Dawn sect and the Golden Blade sect. These two sects wanted the Blood Jade Exquisite, so they began to threaten the Fong family together. The Fong family could not bear it and announced that they would hand over the Blood Jade Exquisite to the Northern Fluttering Snow City. They did not ask for the treasure, but only wanted to exchange for the protection of the Northern Fluttering Snow City. They wanted to move the Fong family to the north, and the morgue would be the witness. At this time, the guest chamberlain of the morgue, 9 Flower Green Peak, Meng Yuanlong, had already arrived at the Fong family. There were also some experts from the surrounding sects who had gathered at the Fong family, wanting to see what the Blood Jade Exquisite looked like. Half a month later, the Northern Fluttering Snow City will officially send someone to receive the Blood Jade Exquisite. We have to take advantage of the chaos and snatch the Blood Jade Exquisite while they are preparing for the official handover. Chu Xiu and the others looked at each other. If they had snatched the Blood Jade Exquisite when it first appeared, it would have been fine. But now they had to snatch the Blood Jade Exquisite from the hands of the Northern Fluttering Snow City and the morgue. This was not an easy task. The guest chamberlain of the morgue, 9 Flower Green Peak, Meng Yuanlong, was a great expert in the unity of heaven and man realm. A few years ago, he was invited to the morgue by Niarenlong out of courtesy. Niarenlong even personally became sworn brothers with him, taking him as his sworn brother. In the Jianghu, they called each other brothers. And it was still unknown who the Northern Fluttering Snow City would send, but their strength should not be weak. At this time, Chu Xiu suddenly said doubtfully, "The Fong family should be the closest to the morgue. Why do they have to go to the Northern Fluttering Snow City? Also, the morgue is not angry at all and is willing to be a witness. Is there a conspiracy?" When the others heard Chu Xiu's words, they also felt that something was wrong. They all looked at the Heavenly Sin Branch leader. Looking deeply at Chu Xiu, the Heavenly Sin Branch leader said indifferently, "Actually, the Fong family wanted to give this thing to the morgue, but the morgue didn't dare to accept it. The relic of the ancient demonic sect, the Blood River cult, is a good thing, but whether it is Nye Rinlong or Nye Donglu, it is not suitable for them to use. They care about their reputation. And would Nye Rinlong be willing to give it to the other people in the morgue? So, this information was sold to the Northern Fluttering Snow City by the morgue, but how much of the transaction was involved is unknown to others. Chapter 123. Since ancient times, the righteous and evil sects had always been at odds. The righteous sects had the reputation of being righteous, but there were also many restrictions and rules. As for the demonic martial artists, they were free and unfettered, but because they broke the rules, they were beaten up by everyone. At this point, even martial arts were divided into the righteous and demonic sections. Of course, this was pure nonsense to Chu Xiu. Those who cultivated righteous martial arts were not necessarily good people, and those who cultivated demonic arts were not necessarily bad people. In fact, martial arts were originally the path of fighting and killing. Whether it was the righteous or demonic sects, when cultivated to the end, it would be used to kill people. How could there be good or bad? Of course, this was only Chu Xiu's view. In the eyes of the majority of the people in the pugilistic world, the righteous and evil were at odds. So although the blood jade was a good item, the morgue village didn't dare to take it. Otherwise, if Nye Rinlong or his son used it, it would inevitably cause the people in the pugilistic world to criticize their morgue village. Although the blood jade was precious, it wasn't worth it to ruin the reputation that the morgue village had built up for decades. As for the northernmost Snowdrift City, they didn't have this concern. The northernmost Snowdrift City was neither righteous nor demonic, but their way of doing things was rough and overbearing, and they were often criticized by the people in the pugilistic world. To the northernmost Snowdrift City, as long as it was a good item, they dared to take it. They didn't care about righteous or evil. At this time, Ghost Hand King stood up and cupped his hands. "Lord Branch Leader, since the northernmost Snowdrift City hasn't arrived yet, why don't we rob it now? When the northernmost Snowdrift City's people arrive, won't we have to face the experts of both sides at the same time?" Heavenly Sin Branch Leader said in a deep voice, "I have already sent someone to infiltrate the Fong family and bribed a direct descendant of the Fong family. Right now, Meng Yuanlong is guarding the Blood Jade, and there are more than 10 factions in the Linzhong commandery that came to watch the show. If we attack by force, the success rate is less than 50%. Only at the time of the handover would the Blood Jade necklace be returned to the Fong clan. The Fong clan would personally hand it over to the people from the Drifts Now city in front of everyone. That would also be the only opportunity for us to act. But even so, our chances of seizing it by force are still very slim. So, I've already come up with a plan. We're going to use a deceptive method to steal the blood jade crystal. Sky Crime Branch Leader looked at everyone present and said in a deep voice, I need one of you to disguise yourself and pretend to be a member of the pugilistic world to sneak into the Fong clan. Afterwards, I brought all of the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society to lie in ambush outside the Fong residence before the handover ceremony. When the blood jade jewel returned to the Fong residence, we attacked the Fong residence and attracted everyone's attention. When the time comes, the Fong family that I bribed will use the fake blood jade Linglong that I prepared in advance to replace it with the fake one, and take advantage of the chaos to give you the real one. In the midst of the chaos, no one will think of checking whether the blood jade crystal is real or fake. When one of you runs far away with the real blood jade crystal, I'll bring my men and leave. Then, this mission will be considered a success. Hearing Sky Crime Branch Leader say this, everyone present didn't say anything else. Clearly, for the sake of seizing the blood jade crystal, Sky Crime Branch Leader had already made a very detailed plan. Even the plan had been laid out. In that case, they only needed to listen to Sky Crime Branch Leader's orders. However, at this time, Chu Xiu faintly felt that there was something wrong with Sky Crime Branch Leader's plan. But as for what the problem was, he couldn't figure it out. At this time, Sky Crime Branch Leader looked at everyone and said, right now, there's only one problem. Which one of you will be responsible for sneaking into the Fong clan and being the key person to steal the fake blood jade crystal? This person must be bold and meticulous, and his methods must be nimble and adaptable. Otherwise, if something unexpected happens, it will be a disaster. Although the Heavenly Sin Branch Leader was looking at the crowd, his gaze was mainly on Chu Xiu and Tangya. Among everyone present, the strongest was still Yen Bugui. However, this kind of mission wasn't something that could be completed with strength alone. With Yen Bugui's personality, he was definitely not suitable to complete this kind of mission. Everyone was sure that even if this guy changed his appearance, he would still look the same. He would probably be discovered before he could even sneak into the Fong clan. Apart from Yen Bugui, the strongest were Tangya and Chu Xiu. Of these two, one was at the physical invulnerability stage, and his success rate in completing the mission was also extremely high. Although Chu Xiu was at the internal invulnerability stage, his ability to complete the mission was even more outstanding. His thoughts were meticulous and his ability to plan was strong. Moreover, his strength was comparable to some of the weaker physical invulnerability stage martial artists. Sky Crime Branch Leader pondered for a while, then said, Chu Xiu, I'll leave this mission to you. Tangya's personality is too obvious, and I'm afraid that he will give himself away when he sneaks into the Fong clan. Don't worry, the Blue Dragon Society's reward and punishment system has always been very fair. Your mission is the most difficult one, so you deserve the most rewards. Chu Xiu furrowed his brows. Actually, he wasn't willing to accept this kind of mission that would bring him into the limelight. It was safer to follow behind everyone, and he would be able to obtain more benefits. But now that Sky Crime Branch Leader had asked him to do it, he couldn't possibly give Chu Xiu a chance to refuse. Therefore, Chu Xiu could only stand up and cup his hands in greeting. I'll follow Sky Crime Branch Leader's orders. Sky Crime Branch Leader nodded in satisfaction and said, since it's like this, let's start preparing. In order to make it seem more real, don't tell the other assassins about this matter. Let them think that our Sky Crime Branch is really going to attack the Fong clan head-on. Only then will it seem real. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts when they heard this. The ordinary assassins of the Blue Dragon Society were probably going to become cannon fodder this time. If they knew the inside story and knew that they were only going to create a diversion, then they definitely wouldn't risk their lives. Instead, they would just sit back and do nothing, preserving their strength. A few people could do this, but over 100 assassins from the Blue Dragon Society would do the same. Even an idiot would feel that something was wrong. Therefore, Sky Crime Branch Leader specially called them to the meeting hall to talk about this matter. He was afraid that the other assassins would find out about this. However, everyone present knew Sky Crime Branch Leader's personality. At this moment, no one was willing to offend him. They immediately nodded in agreement and went to prepare for their own matters. Because Chu Xiu wanted to sneak into the Fang clan, he had to disguise himself first. In the Blue Dragon Society, the Ghostly Hand King was the best at disguising himself. Although the Ghostly Hand King's martial arts weren't too outstanding, he knew a lot of miscellaneous things. When carrying out a mission, he could use all of his random tricks. Sometimes, he could even kill people faster than Chu Xiu and the others. Although the Ghostly Hand King couldn't be said to have achieved great success in disguising himself, he could be said to be proficient in it. It wasn't a problem for him to temporarily disguise Chu Xiu as someone else. The Ghostly Hand King directly pulled Chu Xiu into his room and put a human skin mask on Chu Xiu. Then he took out a large number of bottles and jars and began to smear them on Chu Xiu's face. He also took out a scraper and a fine brush and began to refine it. After a quarter of an hour, Chu Xiu looked like a completely different person. Right now, Chu Xiu's appearance was basically that of a man in his 30s. He had a sallow complexion, and he didn't look like he had anything to show. It wasn't just his face. Even Chu Xiu's hands and all of his exposed skin had been painted a sallow color by the Ghostly Hand King. In any case, it was basically impossible to see from the outside. Chu Xiu clicked his tongue in praise. Ghostly Hand King, your skills are superb. You really live up to your name of Ghostly Hand. The Ghostly Hand King chuckled. It's nothing. Right now, the place with the most amazing disguising techniques should be the wind-sweeping pavilion. Those anemophilia have thousands of faces. They often infiltrate large clans and sects to gather information. They do it unknowingly. However, this low-level disguising technique of mine has quite a big flaw. These things on your face can't come in contact with water. Otherwise, they will dissolve. Also, your aura needs to be concealed. As he said that, the Ghostly Hand King took out a jade talisman and handed it to Chu Xiu. This is a jade talisman that can conceal your aura. As long as you actively suppress your aura and wear this jade talisman, even a great expert at the Unity of the World realm won't be able to see your true strength. Of course, you can't make a move. As long as you use a trace of qi, the formation on the jade talisman will lose its effect. You will also be completely exposed. Chu Xiu glanced at his own attire. As long as there were no accidents, there didn't seem to be any big problems. Of course, even if there were any accidents, Chu Xiu would definitely choose to immediately escape without the slightest bit of hesitation. He wasn't so loyal to the Blue Dragon Society that he would throw his life away. Especially since this mission wasn't a mission from the Blue Dragon Society, but a mission from the Heavenly Sin Branch leader himself. During this period of time, Chu Xiu had been adapting to the actions of his identity and the way he spoke. He was trying his best to not be seen through. Half a month later, the people from the extreme north's fluttering snow city arrived at the Fang family. The Blue Dragon Society was also completely mobilized. They hid around the Fang family and struck at the crucial moment. At this time, there were already many martial artists in front of and inside the Fang family. Apart from the people from the morgue and the extreme north's fluttering snow city, most of them were martial artists from the forest commandery. To them, this kind of bustle was really rare. Actually, most of the martial artists from the forest commandery would still praise the Fang family for their cleverness in doing this. Although the probability of obtaining a treasure from a low-grade secret box was very low, to the point that it was infuriating, the pugilistic world was so big that such things had always happened, almost without a break. Most of the small clans couldn't help but completely occupy the treasure after obtaining it, not wanting to share it with anyone else. In the end, only a very small portion of people used this treasure to greatly improve their clan's strength. Most of the clans, however, were exterminated for their treasures. The Fang family was quite decisive. As soon as they saw that their own treasure had aroused the greed of others, they immediately found a solid backer to hug in exchange for protection and support. Chapter 124. The Fang clan was just a small clan in the Linzhong commandery, but at this moment, it was very crowded. Most of the people were actually here to join in the fun. They wanted to see what this so-called ancient demonic treasure, the blood jade crystal, looked like. Among them were people from the Qingxin sect and the Jindao sect. At this moment, the people from these two sects were filled with regret. If they had known this would happen, they would have given up on the idea of fighting for it and directly attacked the Fang clan. In the end, they could only watch as the treasure fell into the hands of the fluttering snow city of the far north. They didn't even dare to say a word. The two sects were considered to be powerful in the Linzhong commandery, but compared to the fluttering snow city of the far north, they were like ants. At this moment, Chu Xiu disguised himself as an ordinary martial artist and blended in with the crowd. He didn't stand out at all. As he strolled back and forth, he was also investigating the situation and movements of the entire Fang clan. After about 2 hours, a group of people walked in from outside. The leader was a middle-aged man in his 40s. He wore a snow-white tiger skin robe and had a cold expression. There was a hideous knife scar on his face that extended from his forehead to the left side of his face. One look and anyone could tell that he was not someone to be trifled with. Someone beside him said, "It's the 13th master of the fluttering snow city, Raging Flame Mad Blade, Bai Jianghu." This 13th master of the Bai clan was born in a branch family, but he followed the elders of the Bai clan to fight for the fluttering snow city of the far north since he was young. Now, he has reached the peak of the Qi-controlling realm and is one with the world. In the fluttering snow city of the far north, his status is not inferior to the martial artists of the direct line of descent. It seems that the fluttering snow city of the far north also values the blood jade crystal very much. They actually sent such an expert to personally welcome it. At this moment, the patriarch of the Fang clan also personally came out to welcome Bai Jianghu. There was a joyful smile on his face as he bowed to Bai Jianghu and said, "To trouble the 13th master to come personally, our Fang clan is really honored by your presence." Bai Jianghu squeezed out a stiff smile and said, "Since the Fang clan has decided to join my Drifts Now city, then my Drifts Now city will naturally protect the Fang clan for the rest of their lives. Since the Fang family trusts my Drifts Now city, then my Drifts Now city will not go back on its word. From now on, the Fang family will be under the protection of my Drifts Now city. If anyone dares to target the Fang family, then that is equivalent to provoking my Drifts Now city." After saying this, Bai Jianghu's gaze swept across the crowd. His eyes seemed to have a chilling glint that made everyone's hearts tremble. This was especially so for those from the Qingxin sect and Jindao sect. They were afraid that with the support of the Drifts Now city of the extreme north, they would suffer the revenge of the Fang clan. Seeing Bai Jianghu's actions, Chu Xiu secretly raised his eyebrows. This time, the Drifts Now city of the extreme north actually sent a great expert who was one with the world. It seemed that the Tianzue branch leader would have some trouble. But if it was troublesome, then so be it. In any case, the mission over there was not something he wanted to do. Since the Tianzue branch leader had the confidence to act, then he should be able to predict that he would have to deal with 2 or more experts who were one with the world at the same time. And the words that Bai Jianghu said actually had a very deep meaning. His words were not only for the Bai clan to hear, but also for the people of the pugilistic world to hear. If one discovered a secret treasure and wanted to hide it, then there would be a calamity that would lead to the destruction of the entire clan. And if one offered it to the Drifts Now city of the extreme north, then they would be like the Fang clan, receiving the protection and status they deserved. There was no need to say which side was more suitable. After the people from the Drifts Now city of the extreme north were welcomed into the Fang clan, Chu Xiu immediately stealthily retreated into the backyard of the Fang clan. At this moment, regardless of whether it was the people of the Fang clan or the people of the pugilistic world, all of their attention was on the front yard. The people of the Fang clan would officially hand over the blood jade to the people from the Drifts Now city. Although this was just a ceremony, it was a ceremony that was held in front of everyone, and there was even the Morgue village as a witness. If in the future, the Drifts Now city of the extreme north went back on their word and didn't protect the Fang clan, that would be a violation of the rules. Not only would the Drifts Now city of the extreme north lose face, even the Morgue village would have to speak out for the Fang clan, seeking justice for the Fang clan. This was also the role of a witness. just like how Zen Master Hengshan acted as a witness during the grand assembly of Yao Nanxian's golden basin washing hands. In the backyard, Chu Xiu was hiding under a rock garden. At this moment, the majority of the people of the Fong clan were in the front yard. Basically, no one would come to the backyard. And even if someone came, they wouldn't be able to discover Chu Xiu. At this time, a Fong clan disciple in his 20s came to the backyard sneakily with a box in his hand, looking around for something. Chu Xiu picked up the long sword in his hand and rhythmically knocked on the rock garden a few times. The young man's eyes suddenly lit up and immediately ran to Chu Xiu's side, stuffed the box into Chu Xiu's hands, and cautiously said, "I've brought the thing for you, quickly leave." Directly from the backyard, the front yard is already full of martial artists. I can't leave for too long, otherwise it will arouse suspicion. After saying that, the young martial artist was about to leave. But at this time, when Chu Xiu took the box, he felt that something was slightly wrong. He directly opened the box. Inside the box was an exquisite blood jade that was the size of a fist and had an irregular shape. It contained countless intricate bloodlines, appearing incomparably mystical and magnificent. It was the shape of the legendary blood jade. Seeing that Chu Xiu opened the box, the young man suddenly became a little flustered. He hurriedly said, "What are you still looking at here? Quickly take the thing and leave. Otherwise, if we're discovered, both of us will be out of luck." Looking at the blood jade, Chu Xiu suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed the martial artist's neck, coldly saying, "This isn't a blood jade at all." The Fong clan martial artist struggled. "What are you doing? If this isn't a blood jade, what else can it be? Let me go. Could it be that you want to cheat on me?" Looking at the Fong clan martial artist, Chu Xiu's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. This Fong clan martial artist was lying, and even that Heaven Crime Branch leader's plan was problematic. In the original plot, Chu Xiu had never seen a blood jade, nor had he seen one in this life, only heard of it. But now, the thing in the box looked exactly like a blood jade, so why did Chu Xiu think that it wasn't a blood jade? The reason was very simple. It was because the baleful blood energy he condensed was utterly unable to resonate with the energy within the blood jade crystal in the slightest. Chu Xiu's secret technique, piercing the sun and moon, was a martial art of the Blood River sect. It could be said that it came from the same source as this blood jade. In the end, Chu Xiu had not sensed any power that belonged to the Blood River sect from the blood jade exquisite. After that, he had opened the box and tested it with the blood qi, but the blood jade exquisite did not resonate with him at all. A treasure refined by a sect using their own secret technique could not even trigger the sect's own martial art to resonate. What was this if not a joke? Also, after discovering that there was a problem with the blood jade, Chu Xiu realized that there was something wrong with the Heaven Crime Branch leader's plan. When the Heaven Crime Branch leader told him this plan, Chu Xiu felt that something was wrong, but he could not tell what exactly was wrong. Only now did Chu Xiu know what was wrong. This plan was too smooth. There was no problem with the arrangement of the plan. The problem was that the Heaven Crime Branch leader only needed to bribe a direct descendant of the Fong family to steal the real blood jade. In the process, the blood jade would fall back into the hands of the Fong family, but it would not be controlled by just one person from the Fong family. There would definitely be many people, including the disciples of the morgue. After all, Meng Yuanlong had not come alone. He had brought many disciples with him. Putting Chu Xiu in the shoes of this Fong family disciple, with Chu Xiu's strength and the secret technique he knew, the chances of him successfully swapping the blood jade was less than 10%. How could this Fong family disciple so easily swap the blood jade? Even if he was the son of the Fong family's head, it would still be impossible. Furthermore, this Fong family disciple in front of him was only at the blood condensation realm, and he didn't seem to be very scheming. On the contrary, he seemed to be a bit impatient. If division leader Tianxin wanted to rely on him to steal the blood jade exquisite, then that would be a joke. Looking at the Fong family disciple, a cold light appeared in Chu Xiu's eyes. The heaven extinguishing earth extinguishing soul shifting technique was used. In an instant, Chu Xiu's eyes seemed to become a bottomless abyss. The Fong family disciple's gaze involuntarily sank deeper and deeper into that bottomless abyss, completely losing himself. With Chu Xiu's current cultivation base, using the heaven extinguishing earth extinguishing soul shifting technique to deal with a soul condensation cultivator was very simple. Is the blood jade real? Asked Chu Xiu in a low voice. The Feng family disciple said in a sluggish voice, it's fake. The real blood jade is being guarded by 2 elders of the Feng family as well as several disciples of the morgue. Although I'm a direct descendant, I don't have the qualifications to approach it. Chu Xiu's expression turned cold and he continued to ask, then what's the deal with this thing you gave me? It was given to me by that lord. He told me to come to the rear courtyard at this time and give it to someone. He also told me to treat the box as the real blood jade. I had to personally see him take it and leave the Feng family. I only had a quarter hour before he left the Feng family's territory. Who is that lord? I don't know, but he gave me many cultivation techniques and cultivation resources. Afterwards, I can take these things and leave the Feng family, living a life of riches and freedom. Did he give you any other orders? No, that's all. Chu Xiu's expression was dark as he strangled the Feng family disciple to death. At this time, he was certain that he had been played. To be more accurate, he had been used as a pawn by the Heaven Crime Branch leader. Or perhaps it was better to say that he had been abandoned. Chapter 125. According to what the Feng family disciple said, Chu Xiu could more or less guess what was going on. Actually, there was no problem with the Heavenly Sin Division leader's plan. It was just that the Heavenly Sin Division leader's side wasn't the one to divert the firepower. Instead, it was Chu Xiu's side. If Chu Xiu's guess was correct, this fake blood jade crystal ring must have been tampered with. After a quarter of an hour, it would explode. At that time, it would attract everyone's attention, making them think that the real blood jade crystal ring was on Chu Xiu's body and that it had been stolen. While everyone's attention was focused on Chu Xiu, the Heavenly Sin Branch leader would lead a group of people to snatch away the real blood jade exquisite jade. It could be said that this so-called stealing the beam and changing the pillar, and making a feint in the east while attacking the west, were all for others to see. They wanted to make the people of the drifting snow city and the morgue think that the blood jade exquisite jade had been stolen, allowing Chu Xiu to attract the majority of the firepower. Although not everyone would be attracted to Chu Xiu, there would definitely be fewer people left in the Feng family than before. If the Sky Crime Branch leader pretended to stop them from chasing after Chu Xiu, it would make others believe that this was the Blue Dragon Society's plan. At that time, there would definitely be more people chasing after Chu Xiu. At that time, the Heavenly Sin Branch Master would attack with his full strength. The chances of him snatching the blood jade crystal would be much higher than if he attacked head-on. No wonder the Heavenly Sin Branch leader trusted Chu Xiu so much and wasn't afraid that Chu Xiu would run away with the blood jade. It was because Chu Xiu was holding a fake. Chu Xiu took a deep breath. This matter was dangerous enough. If it weren't for the fact that Chu Xiu cultivated the sun-moon piercing chi from the Blood River cult and sensed that something was wrong with the blood jade, and if it weren't for the fact that Chu Xiu was naturally suspicious and felt that there was something wrong with the Feng clan disciple, then Chu Xiu might have really fallen into the Heavenly Sin Branch leader's trap. It could be said that in this plan, Chu Xiu played the role of a sacrificial pawn to attract the firepower. Under the siege of that powerful force, Chu Xiu had almost no hope of survival. Rubbing his chin with a gloomy expression, Chu Xiu had actually taken the bullet for Tanya this time. For the Heavenly Sin Branch leader, sacrificing a subordinate assassin in exchange for a treasure like the blood jade was undoubtedly worth it. It didn't matter if the assassin was an inner invulnerability expert or a physical invulnerability expert. One could tell just by looking at his attitude. The assassins in the branch who didn't have a code name didn't even know the inside story. They fought with their lives on the line just to put on a more realistic act. This Heavenly Sin Branch leader was obviously an extremely egoistic and cold-hearted person. As long as the value was high enough, he would even sacrifice everyone in the Heavenly Sin Branch. This time, the Heavenly Sin Branch leader chose Chu Xiu to attract the firepower, not because he had any opinions about Chu Xiu, but because Chu Xiu's performance was too outstanding, steady, and strong. That was why he chose Chu Xiu. Choosing Yan Bugui was obviously unreliable. Although Tang Ye was slightly better than Yan Bugui, he was temperamental, eccentric, and unpredictable. Among the assassins in the Heavenly Sin branch, the strongest and most reliable was Chu Xiu. If he didn't choose him, who else could he choose? Because his performance was the most reliable, he was tricked. Chu Xiu didn't know how to describe this situation anymore. In the original plot, Chu Xiu didn't have him, so the one who was tricked this time was definitely Tang Ye. As for whether Tang Ye died or not, Chu Xiu didn't know. However, in such a dangerous situation, if Tang Ye didn't see the flaw, then he would most likely be in danger. Chu Xiu looked at the fake blood jade exquisite in his hand, and his eyes revealed a hint of coldness. Since the Heavenly Sin branch leader tricked him, Chu Xiu naturally wouldn't continue to stay in the Blue Dragon Society. However, even if he left, he couldn't leave so easily. Otherwise, wouldn't he suffer a great loss? Didn't the Heavenly Sin branch leader want to play a diversion and steal the beam and replace the pillar? Fine, I'll play with him for a while. The Blood Jade Exquisite was the secret treasure of the Blood River sect. Since he had obtained the Piercing Sun and Moon secret technique, then now that the Blood Jade Exquisite had appeared, wasn't it just fated with him? After throwing the Fong family disciple's corpse to a corner, Chu Xiu calculated the time, took the fake Blood Jade Exquisite and quietly appeared in the front yard. At this moment, the center of the front yard of the Fong family was empty. Bai Qinhu and Meng Yuanlong were already there with some people waiting for the Fong family head to take out the Blood Jade Exquisite. Meng Yuanlong stared at the commotion in the surroundings as he involuntarily shook his head. Your Drifts Now city is really something. You could have just taken the Blood Jade Jewel and brought the Fong clan to the northern lands. Why did you have to create such a huge commotion? Bai Qinhu's slightly fierce face revealed a hint of surprise. This is the idea of those elders. They said that the northern fluttering snow city has given the people of Jianghu a bad impression and we need to restore our image. Our northern fluttering snow city has been in the north for thousands of years. It's enough that we have strength. We're not your righteous manner. Why do we need to maintain our image? Bai Qinhu's words made Meng Yuanlong speechless. The people of the northern fluttering snow city really didn't know how to speak. Your fluttering snow city is strong enough, so you don't need to care about your image. But my righteous manner is weak, so you need to maintain your image? Meng Yuanlong silently waved his hand. How troublesome. If I knew that your fluttering snow city has so many things to do, I would have passed the information about the Blood Jade Exquisite to the Divine Martial Sect. I reckon they would be interested. Bai Qinhu wanted to say that the Divine Martial Sect might not want this demonic item, but at this moment, a loud laughter rang out. The people of the northern fluttering snow city are so slow. Why don't you just hand over the Blood Jade Exquisite to me? I'm very happy. After I take the item, I will definitely not trouble you anymore. Meng Yuanlong and Bai Qinhu's expressions suddenly changed. They immediately looked in the direction of the voice and saw that the surroundings of the Fong residence were already filled with assassins of the Blue Dragon Society. The Heavenly Sin branch leader's body was surrounded by astral energy. He descended from the wall and stepped on the air. There seemed to be stairs under his feet as he descended step by step. It was an incomparably mystical sight. Everyone present had a look of astonishment on their faces. The Blue Dragon Society had just annihilated the Yao clan not long ago. This time, they had their eyes on the Blood Jade Exquisite again? Bai Qinhu's eyes revealed a hint of coldness. He stretched out his hand, and a crimson saber that seemed to be burning with raging flames was quickly taken out from the secret space box and erected beside him. It's someone from your Heavenly Sin branch again. I say, your Heavenly Sin branch really doesn't learn from your mistakes. Don't touch things that you shouldn't touch. 3 years ago, I participated in the annihilation of the Heavenly Sin branch. Now that you've been sent here by the Blue Dragon Society to be the branch leader of the Heavenly Sin branch, you're even more insignificant than the previous branch leader. Could it be that your Heavenly Sin branch wants to be annihilated again? Bai Qinhu looked at the Heavenly Sin branch leader with a hint of coldness in his eyes. Other small sects might fear the Blue Dragon Society, but the fluttering snow city of the northern fluttering snow city would not. The Blue Dragon Society was one of the 4 divine spirits, but the fluttering snow city of the northern fluttering snow city was also one of the 7 sects and 8 schools. If this was the Blue Dragon Society's headquarters, Bai Qinhu naturally wouldn't dare to say such words, but this was the northern Yen territory. Meng Yuanlong also stood to the side with a long sword in his hand and coldly said, "Heavenly Sin Branch Leader, your Blue Dragon Society has crossed the line. Since you're an assassin, you should be an honest assassin. The Blood Jade Crystal is not something you can covet." Heavenly Sin Branch Leader lightly said, "I'm tired of being an assassin. I don't mind being a bandit." As his voice fell, Heavenly Sin Branch Leader blasted out a punch. The blue astral energy around his body condensed into an incomparably sharp blue longsword. It was clearly a punch, but it contained an incomparably strong sword intent. Bai Qinhu coldly snorted. Then he brandished his flaming long blade with a loud rumble. The incomparably violent blade intent transformed into a blazing waterfall and fell down with a loud rumble. The scorching aura caused all the experts present to immediately retreat frantically. If they were to be touched by this blade light, they would easily be seriously injured. On the other side, Meng Yuanlong also attacked. His sword spun 9 times, transforming into 9 different sword auras that sealed off all the vital acupoints on the Heavenly Sin Branch Leader's body. Although the Blood Jade Exquisite Jade had already belonged to the Northern Drifts Now City, they had to pay a sufficient price for the Morgue Manor to give this opportunity to them. Moreover, the Morgue Manor was also a witness to the resolution of the matter. Now that branch leader Tianzue wanted to snatch the Blood Jade Crystal Necklace, Meng Yuanlong naturally had to stand on Bai Qinhu's side. In an instant, the 3 of them were engaged in a chaotic battle. Tian Sin Branch Leader shouted at Yen Bugui and the others, "All of you, hurry up and get the Blood Jade Exquisite Jade." Bai Qinhu and Meng Yuanlong's complexion changed slightly. Only now did they realize why branch leader Tianzue would attack at this time. Previously, the Blood Jade Exquisite Jade Necklace had been kept by Meng Yuanlong. Unless branch leader Tianzue could kill Meng Yuanlong, he would absolutely not be able to snatch the Blood Jade Exquisite Jade Necklace. Only at this time, the Blood Jade Exquisite Jade Necklace would once again fall into the hands of the Fong family. This would also give branch leader Tianzue a chance to snatch it. Thinking of this, Meng Yuanlong secretly cursed the Northern Drifts Now City for being too troublesome. If it wasn't for the fact that they insisted on these formalities, he would have directly handed over the Blood Jade Exquisite Jade Necklace to them. Then, branch leader Tianzue probably wouldn't have come here. However, Meng Yuanlong could only shout at the people he brought with him, "Hurry up and protect the Blood Jade Exquisite Jade Necklace. Don't let the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society succeed." On the other side, Bai Qinhu also did the same. He also ordered the people of the Northern Drifts Now City to hurry up and protect the Blood Jade Exquisite Necklace first. At this moment, they were somewhat regretful. If they had known this would happen, they would have brought more people. Whether it was Bai Qinhu or Meng Yuanlong, they both thought that this was just a formality. They came here because their status was high enough, so they didn't bring too many people with them. In fact, there weren't even a few people in the physical invulnerability realm. After all, in the Northern Yen, there weren't many people who dared to provoke the Morgue Manor and the Northern Drifts Now City. However, who would have thought that someone would be so daring as to snatch the Blood Jade Exquisite Necklace at this time? Chapter 126. Although he was fighting 1 against 2, the Heavenly Sin Division leader wasn't actually at a disadvantage. Almost all of the assassins in the Blue Dragon Society were battle-hardened, especially those who could reach the Heavenly Sin Division leader's level. While they might be lacking in other areas, their combat prowess was astonishing. Meng Yuanlong and the others were quite famous, but they were either cultivating or dealing with sect affairs. What about the assassins in the Blue Dragon Society? Apart from cultivating, their lives were filled with killing. In a real one-on-one fight, neither Bai Qinhu nor Meng Yuanlong were a match for the Heavenly Sin Division leader. However, Now that the two of them were fighting together, they were more confident. With the Heavenly Sin Division's current strength, it was practically impossible to snatch the Blood Jade Crystal. At this moment, the Heavenly Sin Division leader looked into the distance. It was almost time. The arrangements he left behind should be activated, right? The Heavenly Sin Division leader didn't feel that it was a pity that he had schemed against Chu Xiu. He admitted that Chu Xiu was indeed very strong and capable. In the future, he would almost certainly become the ace assassin of the Blue Dragon Society and bring glory to the Heavenly Sin Division. However, these things were nothing compared to the Blood Jade Crystal. There was only one Blood Jade Crystal, but there were many talented assassins. Back then, he had pulled Chu Xiu into the Blue Dragon Society because it was convenient. If he could find one Chu Xiu, he was confident that he could find a second or third Chu Xiu. Moreover, the Heavenly Sin Division leader had never thought of staying in the Northern Yen Division for the rest of his life. To him, the entire Heavenly Sin Division was just a springboard. Back in the day, he had been tricked by someone, and the Dragon Head had kicked him to the Heavenly Sin branch in a fit of rage. But now that he was stronger, it was only a matter of time before he returned to the Azure Dragon Society. The Heavenly Sin branch was just a springboard for him to get back to the Azure Dragon Society. Heavenly Sin Division leader was fighting Meng Yuanlong and Bai Qinhu at a moderate pace. He had only used 70% of his strength. If the following plan went smoothly, Chu Xiu's arrangements would detonate, and most of the people would be attracted to Chu Xiu's side. That would be the time for him to truly exert his strength. Naturally, he had to reserve some strength for now. At this time, Chu Xiu was mixed in the crowd of onlookers, calculating the time in his heart. The disciple from the Fong clan had said that he only had a quarter of an hour. Clearly, after a quarter of an hour, the fake Blood Jade Exquisite in his hand would undergo some changes. As for what this change was, it would be revealed in a moment. Just as Chu Xiu felt that it was about time, he suddenly rushed out and shouted at the Heaven Sin Division leader, "Sir Division Leader, I have obtained the Blood Jade Crystal." With that, Chu Xiu threw the box containing the Blood Jade to the Heavenly Sin Division leader with a bit of strength. When the Heaven Sin Division leader heard the words, "Blood Jade Crystal Exquisite," he reflexively turned around to catch the box. However, he suddenly realized that this was Chu Xiu's voice. Within the crowd, Chu Xiu gave the Heavenly Sin branch leader a sinister smile, then once again disappeared into the crowd. The Heaven Sin Division leader immediately cursed inwardly. However, at this moment, the box in his hand suddenly exploded with a blinding blood-red light. It even soared into the heavens, looking incomparably magnificent. Bai Qinhu and Meng Yuanlong's expressions suddenly changed. Blood Jade Crystal Exquisite. That blinding blood-red light was the manifestation of the Blood Jade Crystal Exquisite. Because the powerful blood qi within it was too strong, after the Blood Jade Crystal Exquisite was opened from the secret box, it would automatically release this blood-red light if it received any external impact. Back then, the Qingshan sect and the Golden Blade School were able to discover that the Fong clan had opened the Blood Jade Crystal Exquisite because someone from the Fong clan had accidentally dropped the Blood Jade Crystal Exquisite on the ground, causing it to explode with this blood-red light. What Bai Qinhu and Meng Yuanlong didn't understand was how this person from the Blue Dragon Society had obtained the Blood Jade Crystal Exquisite in front of so many people. However, at this moment, they didn't have time to think too much. The two of them instantly exploded with their strongest power and attacked the Heaven Sin Division leader. They had to make him stay here. The Heaven Sin Division leader's expression changed, and he cursed inwardly, "Damn it." At this moment, how could he not understand that his scheme had been seen through by Chu Xiu? Moreover, Chu Xiu was actually daring enough to plot against him. This series of changes made everyone below unable to react. At this moment, even the Fong clan's clan head was dumbfounded. The Blood Jade Crystal Exquisite was guarded by two elders and other disciples of the Fong clan. There were even a few disciples from the morgue. How did it suddenly appear among the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society? The Fong clan head grabbed a disciple who ran out of the Fong clan's inner residence and asked, "What exactly happened? When was the Blood Jade Crystal Exquisite taken?" The disciple shook his head in panic and said, The blood jade crystal exquisite has always been in the inner residence. No one has touched it. The two elders are also puzzled, so they asked me to come out and take a look. The Fong clan head was stunned. If no one had touched the blood jade crystal exquisite, then how did two blood jade crystal exquisite appear? However, at this moment, the Fong clan disciple suddenly said, "However, I seem to have seen the seventh young master take something out. It is a bit similar to that box. Even now, the seventh young master still hasn't returned." The Fong clan head was stunned. Damn it! This bastard! The seventh young master was not his son, but the son of his younger brother. He was also considered a direct descendant of the Fong clan. Naturally, he was qualified to enter the Fong clan's inner residence. The blood jade crystal exquisite had just been lost, and there was no trace of the seventh young master. It was very easy for people to think that the seventh young master had stolen the beam and replaced the pillar. However, now that everyone was in a mess, no one could think of how the seventh young master had managed to steal the beam and replace the pillar under the watch of the Fong clan elders and the disciples of the righteous manner. The Fong clan head's words were also heard intermittently by Jianghu and Meng Yuanlong, who had extremely powerful senses. The two of them sneered at the Heavenly Sin Branch leader and said, "Good move. You bribed an idiot in the Fong clan to be a traitor and stole the blood jade crystal exquisite. I have underestimated you." The Heavenly Sin Branch leader threw the fake blood jade crystal exquisite at the two of them and snorted coldly. "Stealing the beam and replacing the pillar, my ass. If I had really succeeded in stealing the beam and replacing the pillar, do you think I would have let you find out? This thing is fake, and I have also been tricked." As he spoke, the Heavenly Sin Branch leader was about to leave, but he was stopped by Jianghu and Meng Yuanlong. Jianghu said coldly, "Do you think we will believe you? Hand over the real blood jade crystal exquisite." The Heavenly Sin Branch leader's series of actions showed that he was prepared to steal the beam and replace the pillar with the blood jade crystal exquisite. In fact, this was indeed the original plan. Now that the Heavenly Sin Branch leader had thrown the fake blood jade crystal exquisite to the two of them, they became even more suspicious. Who knew what methods the Heavenly Sin Branch leader had to switch the item without anyone knowing? If they really believed the Heavenly Sin Branch leader's words, then they would be idiots. Therefore, no matter who had the blood jade crystal exquisite, they had to take down the Heavenly Sin Branch leader first. With 2 against 1, no matter how strong the Heavenly Sin Branch leader's combat strength was, they would still have a higher chance of winning in the end. Seeing that he was being held back by the two of them, the Heavenly Sin Branch leader was so angry that he wanted to curse. Right now, the two of them did not even give him a chance to explain. Besides resisting, what else could he do? At this time, Chu Xiu had already taken advantage of the Heavenly Sin Branch leader fighting in the front yard to sneak into the inner yard. At this time, the blood jade crystal exquisite was still in the inner yard of the Fong family. The people of the Fong family's inner yard and the martial art practitioners who were responsible for guarding the blood jade crystal exquisite were confused. The people they had sent out had said that the blood jade crystal exquisite had been replaced, but they had been guarding the place the whole time. How could the blood jade crystal exquisite have been replaced? Previously, the Fong family's 7th young master had indeed wandered around the place. However, with his status, he did not have the qualifications to touch the blood jade crystal exquisite. He had just wandered around the place when he was scolded by the 2 Fong family elders and chased out. The people guarding the blood jade crystal exquisite were a little confused. Was the thing they were guarding the blood jade crystal exquisite? One of the Fong family elders said cautiously, "Why don't we open it and take a look? Is this blood jade crystal exquisite real?" One of the martial art practitioners looked at him and coldly snorted. "What are you looking at? Your Fong family still has the nerve to look at it? You don't even know that there is a traitor among your own people. What a joke." The Fong clan elder was instantly given the cold shoulder when he heard this. However, right at this moment, the door was pushed open. The Fong clan elder was just about to ask who it was when a crimson blade light flashed, and the Fong clan elder was instantly and forcefully slashed into 2. There were a total of 4 people in the room. The 2 Fong family elders were only at the Xiantian realm. They were simply trash and not worth worrying about. The truly troublesome ones were the 2 inner gang realm martial art practitioners. If they could not get rid of them quickly, it would be troublesome. From the moment the door was pushed open to the moment he killed someone, only a moment had passed. Before the 3 people present could react, blood had already splattered along with the blade. Chu Xiu's extremely fast saber was hidden in the blood. The other Fong family elder had clearly seen Chu Xiu's saber attack. However, just as he raised the long sword in his hand, his head was cut off by Chu Xiu's saber. "How dare you!" The other 2 martial art practitioners from the Fong family elder shouted angrily and subconsciously rushed towards Chu Xiu. At this moment, a layer of black gas appeared in Chu Xiu's eyes and the body of his saber. As the saber slashed down, it was as if the gates of hell had opened. The blade slid down and purgatory was endless. In order to end the battle quickly, Chu Xiu directly used his strongest Avicii saber. Even a physical invulnerability realm martial art practitioner would not be able to easily block this strange saber, let alone an inner gang realm martial art practitioner. At the moment when the Avicii saber slashed down, a martial art practitioner was killed on the spot. There was not a single scar on his body. However, his blood was strangely drawn out and he looked like a mummy. The other inner gang realm martial art practitioner from the Fong family elder brushed past the terrifying demonic saber. Although he was lucky to survive, his eyes were filled with endless fear and he immediately ran outside. Chu Xiu executed the great sacrificial grappling hand, wanting to pull the cultivator back. However, the cultivator turned around and sent out a palm strike. A cold light flashed in Chu Xiu's eyes. The grappling hand instantly transformed into the great purple sun palm of extinguishing heaven and earth. When this palm strike landed, the cultivator's arm was completely distorted. The purple sun demonic flames entered his body, causing him to howl in pain. However, before he could howl, Chu Xiu slapped him again and directly smashed the martial art practitioner's meridians. He picked up the blood jade crystal from the secret box and turned around to run. Chapter 127. Everyone in the Fong clan was focused on the front yard. Everyone thought that the blood jade was being fought over by the Heavenly Sin branch leader and the other 2. Otherwise, why would the 3 of them be fighting so fiercely? Therefore, no one noticed that Chu Xiu had killed several people from the inner residence and taken away the blood jade exquisite pendant. It wasn't until the fight between the 3 in the front courtyard became a little too intense that the powerful stellar energy directly destroyed several of the surrounding houses. Only then did the Fong clan prepare to hide in the inner residence. The patriarch of the Fong family pushed open the door to the inner chamber. The first thing he smelled was the stench of blood. His expression changed abruptly, and he hurriedly opened the door. He saw the people from the morgue and 2 elders of the Fong family lying in a pool of blood. The blood jade exquisite that they thought had been stolen had disappeared. Clan leader Fong clapped his hands, ran out and shouted, "Master Bai, Master Meng." Something was not right. The people from the morgue and the Fong clan were killed, and the blood jade jewels they were guarding are gone. Bai Jianghu and Meng Yuanlong immediately stopped and looked at the Heavenly Crime Branch leader. Heavenly Sin Branch leader gritted his teeth. Of course, he knew who did it. His scheme had been seen through by that brat. He didn't expect that he would be so audacious as to use his scheme against him. In the end, he had really snatched away the blood jade exquisite jade. Looking at Bai Jianghu and Meng Yuanlong, the Heavenly Sin Branch leader snorted coldly and said, "I already said that I was also schemed against. Why don't you think about it? If I really had the means to secretly replace the blood jade crystal pendant, why would that bastard have given it to me? With me attracting the firepower in front, wouldn't it be better for him to take the item and leave?" Bai Jianghu and Meng Yuanlong glanced at each other. Given the chaotic situation just now and the sudden burst of power from the fake blood jade crystal, who could think of anything else? However, Heavenly Sin Division leader's words did make sense. If someone really did sneak into the Fong clan and stole the blood jade jewel, then as long as Heavenly Sin Division leader was there to attract the attention of the enemy, they could easily retreat from the Fong clan. Yet, in the end, that person had taken the initiative to jump out and throw the item to Sky Crime Branch leader. From stealing in secret to openly stealing, it was as if he was afraid that others would not know that they were the ones who had stolen the blood jade. It was indeed a little strange. Who set you up? Who took away the blood jade crystal? Bai Qinhu asked in a cold voice. The Sky Crime Branch leader coldly snorted and ignored him. He led the members of the Blue Dragon Society and was about to leave. He had been tricked by his own subordinate. How could he say such a shameful thing? Bai Qinhu's eyes were filled with anger. Just as he was about to attack, he was stopped by Meng Yuanlong. Even if the two of us join forces, it will still be very strenuous for us to capture him. Let's first investigate who has the blood jade crystal gem. Hearing Meng Yuanlong's words, Bai Qinhu coldly snorted and returned to the Fong clan to check the corpses. The room where the blood jade crystal gem had been placed was now filled with blood. Meng Yuanlong and Bai Qinhu checked the cause of death of the 4 people and said in a low voice, "It should be an outer invulnerability realm martial artist or an extremely strong inner invulnerability realm martial artist." But the question is, who was it? From what Heavenly Sin Branch leader said, he should know. Moreover, the person who knew his plan and schemed against him was someone from the Heavenly Sin Branch? Meng Yuanlong and Bai Qinhu felt that this was a little unbelievable. They knew what the Heavenly Sin Branch was like. Because the Heavenly Sin Branch had only recently been rebuilt, the overall strength of the Heavenly Sin Branch was actually not that strong. The Heavenly Sin Branch leader was practically omnipotent, and his subordinate actually dared to scheme against him? Which audacious bastard did this? At this moment, a martial artist from the morgue suddenly pointed at the chest of one of the corpses and said, "Lord Meng, I think I know who did this." "Which one is it?" The martial artist pointed at the dark purple handprint on the chest of one of the corpses and said, "The assassin, blood demon, Chu Xiu of the Blue Dragon Society has a sinister palm technique that can leave this kind of mark on a person's body. I once followed the young master to the Biling mansion. There were people in the Yu clan who were injured by this palm technique of Chu Xiu. I can't be wrong." Meng Yuanlong and Bai Qinhu looked at each other. Although they did not pay much attention to the Longhu leaderboard, they had heard people mention this name before. It was still fresh in their memories. Moreover, during the fight today, it seemed that Chu Xiu did not appear. If this was the case, then the martial artist who suddenly appeared and led the trouble to the Heavenly Sin Branch leader should be Chu Xiu in disguise. Moreover, the impression that Chu Xiu had given people was that he was extremely daring. This person dared to snatch food from Ye Donglio's mouth when he did not have any backing. Later on, he even destroyed the entire Yu clan by himself. Although Chu Xiu's journey had been relatively smooth and he had accomplished what he wanted to do, it was clear that his aggressive and risky way of doing things had attracted a lot of attention. Combined with Chu Xiu's daring and crazy character, it was not strange that he dared to plot against his own boss. Meng Yuanlong said in a deep voice, "Go back and issue an announcement. Send people to track this Chu Xiu." The first time Ye Donglu chased after Chu Xiu, because it was only a personal grudge between Ye Donglu and Chu Xiu, Ye Donglu did not use the power of the morgue village. He only used his own power. This time, Chu Xiu took away the blood jade exquisite jade in front of the morgue manor and killed the people from the morgue manor. This matter was definitely not over. Bai Qinhu also nodded. Speaking of which, he should be the most depressed one. He had spent so much effort to get the blood jade exquisite jade and wanted to use this opportunity to spread the name of the northern fluttering snow city. He did not expect that in the end, there would be one mess after another. It happened so fast that he could not keep track of it. No matter what, there had to be an explanation for this matter. Just as the morgue village and the northern fluttering snow city were discussing how to pursue and kill Chu Xiu, the Sky Sin Branch leader also said coldly to the Ghost Hand King beside him, "From today onwards, Chu Xiu is no longer a member of the Sky Sin Branch. Put down your tasks temporarily and pursue Chu Xiu with all your might. If he is alive, I want to see him. If he is dead, I want to see his corpse." The Ghost Hand King and the others were all stunned. They did not understand the situation just now. Previously, when Chu Xiu did not follow the plan and suddenly appeared, they thought that this was a task that the Sky Sin branch leader gave to Chu Xiu alone. After all, from the beginning, their tasks were different. But now, the Sky Sin branch leader actually wanted them to pursue and kill Chu Xiu. What was going on? Just as the Ghost Hand King was about to ask, he raised his head and saw the Sky Sin branch leader's sinister gaze. He immediately swallowed the words he wanted to say. At this time, it was very unwise to offend the Sky Sin branch leader. It was better to keep a low profile. At this time, after Chu Xiu left the Fang clan, he immediately went to Old Man Huang's place to retrieve the Cultivation Jade Scroll that he had been repairing. He had schemed against the Sky Sin branch leader once. He could no longer stay in the Blue Dragon Society. Moreover, previously, Chu Xiu had offended many people in the Northern Yen. Whether directly or indirectly, the number of people he had offended was simply too many to count. After joining the Blue Dragon Society, Chu Xiu had gained a backer. Only then did Nie Donglu and the others give up on pursuing him. Now that Chu Xiu had betrayed the Blue Dragon Society, there was almost no need to think about what Nie Donglu and the others who had offended Chu Xiu in the past would do. Moreover, this time, Chu Xiu had snatched food from the tiger's mouth and obtained the Blood Jade Exquisite. Obviously, the Morgue Manor and the drifting snow city of the far north would not let this matter rest. Therefore, this time, it was useless for Chu Xiu to hide. It was best for him to temporarily leave the Northern Yen and lie low for a while. Although it was a bit difficult with the Blood Jade Exquisite, it was worth it. This was a treasure that could even move the heart of an existence like the Sky Sin branch leader. Along the way, Old Man Huang arrived at Old Man Huang's place. This time, Old Man Huang did not set up any traps. However, at this time, Chu Xiu's face was still disguised. Old Man Huang was slightly startled and said, "May I ask who are you looking for?" Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, "It's me." Old Man Huang suddenly realized something and said, "Ah, so it's official Chu. How did you become like this?" Chu Xiu said indifferently, "I was just preparing to carry out a mission." "Have you finished repairing the Cultivation Jade Scroll?" Old Man Huang immediately took out a box and said, "I finished repairing it 2 days ago. Official Chu can check it." Chu Xiu took out the Cultivation Jade Scroll and looked at it. His spiritual energy entered it and he could indeed read it, but Chu Xiu did not read it right now. Reading the information within the Cultivation Transmission Jade Slip had a relatively large impact on a cultivator's psyche. Although this impact would disappear after a short period of time, Chu Xiu still did not know what the outside world had become. He needed to ensure that his psyche was at its peak at all times. Throwing Old Man Huang a piece of purple gold, Chu Xiu suddenly said, "That's right, do you have anything to defend against the miasma in the West Chu Forest?" Old Man Huang nodded and said, "Of course I do. Official Chu is going to carry out a mission in West Chu?" Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, "Don't talk nonsense. If you have it, then quickly take it out." Old Man Huang's neck shrank back and he immediately took out a few pieces of jade from the room and said, "These pieces of jade have simple runes drawn on them that can block out a certain amount of miasma." They were all drawn by this old man before his cultivation was crippled. Each piece of jade can last around a month in the miasma. Chu Xiu threw Old Man Huang a piece of purple gold and said, "I want all of these things." Old Man Huang took the purple gold and was instantly filled with joy. These jade pieces with simple runes were not anything precious. This official Chu was truly generous. "That's right, do you know how to change your appearance?" "There is a problem with my appearance, I want to change it," Chu Xiu suddenly said. Old Man Huang was a bit embarrassed. "I used to be an array master and changing my appearance belongs to the lower 9 paths. I have only touched it but I have never learned it. However, if official Chu needs it, I can only add a beard or some simple scars on your face. If you look carefully, you will be able to see that it is similar to your previous face." Chu Xiu directly waved his hand and said, "Do as you see fit, as long as it is different from your current appearance." Old Man Huang nodded. Since he had money, naturally he would do whatever Chu Xiu said. After adjusting his appearance at Old Man Huang's place, Chu Xiu immediately left. However, he did not go in the direction of West Chu, rather he went in the direction of Eastern Qi and Wei County. Chapter 128. Chu Xiu was now sure that the people from the morgue, the northern fluttering snow city, and the Blue Dragon Society were all looking for him. Chu Xiu wasn't sure if wind-sweeping buildings Lu Yu would leak the news that he was looking for Old Huang. Therefore, he decided to set up a smokescreen here in advance. In fact, Chu Xiu's guess was right. Before the next day, the morgue and the northern fluttering snow city had joined hands to put out a bounty for Chu Xiu. Anyone who could provide any information about Chu Xiu would receive a bounty from the morgue and the northern fluttering snow city. Everyone was still confused. This blood demon, Chu Xiu, was the most famous assassin in the Blue Dragon Society's Heavenly Sin branch. He was ranked on the Longhu list. The morgue and the northern fluttering snow city were so brazenly putting out a bounty for Chu Xiu. How could the Heavenly Sin branch just sit back and do nothing? Afterwards, everyone heard that the Heavenly Sin branch wasn't just sitting back and doing nothing. Instead, they were already searching for Chu Xiu's whereabouts. The Heavenly Sin branch leader even left a message, dead or alive. As soon as this sentence came out, everyone immediately understood what the Heavenly Sin branch leader meant. At the same time, they shook their heads inwardly. This Chu Xiu was really bold. Not only did he offend the morgue and the northern fluttering snow city, but he also betrayed the Blue Dragon Society. However, the only thing that was strange was the Blue Dragon Society's attitude. Normally, if an assassin of the Blue Dragon Society betrayed the Blue Dragon Society, the branch leader would personally report to the headquarters and report the reason. Finally, after the traitor's name was removed, the branch leader would order all the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society to hunt down the traitor, leaving no place for the traitor. However, the Heavenly Sin branch leader didn't seem to have reported Chu Xiu's whereabouts to the Blue Dragon Society headquarters. He only sent the Heavenly Sin branch's people to search for Chu Xiu. This was quite strange. Actually, the reason was very simple. After all, it was Division Leader Heavenly Sin who had taken the initiative to scheme against Chu Xiu. Although the Azure Dragon Society's headquarters wouldn't punish a dignified division leader like him for something like that, as well as an expert in the realm of the unity of heaven and man, taking the initiative to scheme against a subordinate wasn't a good thing to say. He still wanted to return to the headquarters, and such a matter that would affect his reputation in the Azure Dragon Society was something that couldn't be known to the headquarters. Also, snatching the Blood Jade Crystal this time wasn't in line with the rules of the Blue Dragon Society. The Blue Dragon Society was just an assassin organization. If you wanted to use the power of the Blue Dragon Society to do other things, it was fine. However, you had to report to the headquarters, and you had to get the headquarters' approval before you could do it. The process was quite troublesome. Most of the Blue Dragon Society branch leaders were like local tyrants. Of course, they didn't like the feeling of being restricted. Therefore, if they acted on their own, as long as it wasn't a big matter, they would basically never report to the headquarters. This kind of thing was an unspoken rule of the Blue Dragon Society. If you didn't say it, others wouldn't care. However, if Sky Crime Division leader reported this to the headquarters, then the headquarters would know that he acted on his own, and he would inevitably be reprimanded and punished. Right now, the three clans were chasing after Chu Xiu together. The momentum was already extremely shocking. At this time, in the Southern Swallow Divine Martial Sect, Yen Tingting received the news from the Divine Martial Sect's disciple. Her eyes were red, and they revealed endless hatred and killing intent. Although Yen Tingting was unruly and willful in the past, she was still lively. However, now her figure was thin and she looked depressed. When the Yu clan was annihilated and Yu Luchuan died in the hands of Chu Xiu, Yen Tingting couldn't wait to kill Chu Xiu to avenge her beloved. However, because of the special nature of the Divine Martial Sect, Yen Huainan didn't allow her to cause trouble for Chu Xiu. Although Yen Tingting was the eldest daughter of the Divine Martial Sect, without Yen Huainan's orders, who would dare to help her? Therefore, even if Yen Tingting wanted to take revenge, she didn't have the power. She cried all day long, but she always paid attention to the news about Chu Xiu. Seeing that Chu Xiu was ranked on the Longhu leaderboard after annihilating the Yu clan and had made a name for himself in the Eastern Yen martial world, she couldn't wait to kill Chu Xiu right now. However, it was a pity that she didn't have the power. Now that Chu Xiu was wanted by the Righteous Manor and the Northern Fluttering Snow City, and he was expelled from the Blue Dragon Society, Yen Tingting immediately saw an opportunity. Holding the news, Yen Tingting directly knocked on the door of Yen Huainan's secret room where he was in seclusion. Everyone in the Divine Martial Sect knew that disturbing the sect leader's seclusion was a very serious matter. Even the elders of the Divine Martial Sect were afraid to see Yen Huainan's gloomy face. Yen Tingting was the only exception. The sect leader of the Divine Martial Sect, Yen Huainan, was a middle-aged man with a shocking aura. The lines on his face looked as if they had been chiseled by a knife and chiseled by an axe. People who looked at him would feel awe. Yen Huainan had single-handedly developed the Divine Martial Sect from an ordinary small sect into one of the 7 sects and 8 schools. He was ranked 37th on the Wind Cloud leaderboard. Whether it was in the Jianghu or in the sect, Yen Huainan was definitely an extremely powerful and ambitious person. However, no matter how powerful Yen Huainan was, he couldn't do so in front of his own daughter. Seeing Yen Tingting like this, he couldn't help but ask helplessly, "Tingting, what's wrong now?" Yen Tingting threw the news in her hand to Yen Huainan and said expressionlessly, "Previously, you were worried about the Blue Dragon Society and didn't want to hunt down Chu Xiu. Now that Chu Xiu has betrayed the Blue Dragon Society, you should be able to make your move, right?" Yen Huainan took the news and read it. A strange look immediately appeared in his eyes. To be honest, Yen Huainan didn't have any bad feelings toward Chu Xiu from the very beginning. He was even somewhat grateful to Chu Xiu. Yu Luchuan looked like a good-for-nothing. Apart from his good looks, there was nothing good about him. In the eyes of an ambitious person like Yen Huainan, he was basically a piece of trash. Unfortunately, there were so many young talents in the northern Yen land, but his daughter didn't like any of them. She didn't even like such an outstanding person like Nye Donglu. What else could he do? If it weren't for the fact that he was afraid that his daughter would hate him for the rest of her life if he killed Yu Luchuan, Yen Huainan would have made his move long ago. Now that Chu Xiu had helped him, although Yen Tingting had been depressed for a long time, Yen Huainan believed that time could wash away everything. Sooner or later, his daughter would forget about that pretty boy. However, Yen Huainan didn't expect that his daughter would still remember that pretty boy. Chu Xiu had already caused such a big commotion. Seeing the news in the news, Yen Huainan even admired Chu Xiu a little. In the Jianghu, one had to either endure or be ruthless. Yen Huainan wasn't the kind of person who would endure humiliation. On the contrary, he was ruthless and decisive. That was why he had led the Divine Force sect to fight for dozens of years and become one of the 7 sects and 8 factions. Chu Xiu had dared to snatch things from the loyalty-gathering village and the drifting snow city in the far north, and he had even dared to plot against his superior. In Yen Huainan's eyes, this was already ruthless and decisive enough. If this man could survive this ordeal, he would definitely become someone great in the future. Of course, the prerequisite was that the other party had to be able to survive this ordeal. Throughout history, there had been many young talents in the Jianghu, and there were some who were more astonishing than Chu Xiu. However, there were even more who died prematurely. Geniuses who could survive were called outstanding people. Those who died prematurely were just dead people. Seeing that Yen Huainan didn't speak for a long time, Yen Tingting couldn't help but say anxiously, "Father, do you agree to go after Chu Xiu or not?" Yen Huainan patted Yen Tingting's head affectionately and said, "Kill him. Of course I'll kill him. Don't worry. I'll send someone to inform them to go after Chu Xiu in the south of the Yen River." Hearing Yen Huainan's words, Yen Tingting left, feeling satisfied. After Yen Tingting left, a warrior in his 30s walked out of nowhere and asked in confusion, "Master, are we really going to go after Chu Xiu in the south of the Yen River? But our Divine Force sect doesn't even know where Chu Xiu is." Yen Huainan turned around and snorted coldly. Go after him, my foot. If you have the time, why don't you use it to cultivate? I said it to make Tingting happy, and you took it seriously? Spread the news and send some restless disciples down the mountain to take a stroll. Just put on a show. The disciple nodded in understanding. This was Yen Huainan's way of doing things. Although Yen Huainan had indeed doted on Yen Tingting all these years, he had never let her cause any big trouble. Yen Huainan had always put the interests of the Divine Force sect as the top priority. At this time, in the outside world, as the Divine Force sect released the news, the people of Jianghu were shocked to discover that there were actually 4 of the major forces in the Jianghu that were listed in the Jianghu Song of the land of Northern Yen that were chasing after Chu Xiu. It was actually not a big deal to be chased by 4 great forces at the same time. After all, in the history of the Jianghu, there were some fierce and powerful demons who could even be hunted down by the whole Jianghu, but they were still alive and well. But the problem was, what was Chu Xiu's current strength? He was only in the inner invulnerability realm, and he was a member of the new generation in the Jianghu on the Longhu list. A few years ago, in West Chu, Tong Kaitai, the rising star of the evil path, killed a direct descendant of the Zhang family of the celestial master mansion of Mount Longhu and ate it. His method was extremely bloody and cruel, and the celestial master mansion regarded it as a provocation. They even sent several experts in the oneness of heaven and men realm to hunt him down. Now, Chu Xiu's influence was even greater than Tong Kaitai's. Tong Kaitai had provoked 1, but Chu Xiu had provoked 4. At this time, in an inconspicuous little tavern in Mount Tai County, Lu Yu was holding a small wine pot. Many low-level Jianghu people came up to him one by one to report some things. He noted down those he felt were valuable and gave them some rewards. The information from the wind-sweeping tower did not come for nothing. For a nemophilia like Lu Yu, apart from specifically investigating one thing when he had a mission, most of the time he was passively collecting information. Especially for these low-level Jianghu people, an insignificant thing in their eyes could be a big news in the eyes of a nemophilia like Lu Yu. These low-level Jianghu people were the informants that Lu Yu kept. Although most of the information was useless, there were a lot of informants, and he could always get some valuable information from them. At this moment, Bai Qinhu walked into the tavern with the martial artists of the northern fluttering snow city with a gloomy face, heading straight for Lu Yu. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.